Part 325. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3255. Don't maintain a good relationship with this messenger, and don't get along with each other. In short, you will stay away from each other. They just wanted to see what the news was like over there after the next exchange with the base camp. If they had any objections to the envoy's unauthorized claims, then they would definitely keep a distance from him. If they didn't say anything, they would go and kneel down later. It's not too late to lick. Of course, they also knew that it was already too late by then. But it's better than being in the wrong team. The other side took in all the information. Did they say anything? No. I just said that you did a great job, Mr. Messenger. Please return immediately. Well. In the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce branch in the satellite city, the branch president who was favored by Jia Yan was holding the intelligence content taken out from the communications department with a strange expression. The other presidents had come to watch the show, but they also had strange expressions at this time. There wasn't even a single complaint from the headquarters. Could it be that it wasn't the top brass who received the information? No. It was a big shot who received the information, and the name on the acknowledgement letter was, Jia Yan. Jia Yan. That was the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, the supreme figure in the trade area. It is said that there is a ceiling in terms of strength in the trade area and even among the major forces that have joined forces. The information content that he personally annotated? And here, there is no mention of the envoy's act of overstepping his authority. Everyone's breath was stagnant and they couldn't help but take a closer look at the messenger. There's nothing special about it. Apart from the nice long hair, it's just an ordinary ape creature. Its strength doesn't look like a domain lord level, but it defeated a domain lord before. A master of officialdom with superior strength. It's really special. It is extremely mysterious and its strength is hard to see through. Could it be because of these that Master Jia Yan also looked at him differently? But Master Jia Yan seems not to be on the Imperial Island. The presidents of these group branches all have unclear thoughts, but this does not prevent their attitude towards the messenger from changing completely. Started to become attentive. But now it's too late to make amends. Everyone, since the information and terms and conditions have been answered, I will take my leave. We will see you again if we have the chance. Having said that, he also deliberately chatted with the branch president who had been reviewed by the clone, just to let him see more materials and so on. Ordinary chatting, but making others envious. Until a few minutes later, the ape figure soared into the sky. Several distant hidden figures have been hiding in the deep mountains and old forests watching them disappear into the sky from a distance. Some people shook their heads in despair. That's all, the mission of this envoy has been completed. Even if we chase him and kill him, we can't reverse the situation. It's just a chamber of commerce that has formed an alliance with the dynasty. It's harmless. Could it be that overseas forces like us are still afraid of that mere chamber of commerce? What you don't understand, you really don't understand. What we really have to worry about is the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. They are different. Someone is saying something incomprehensible, but others don't know what they mean. However, no matter how much disputes or differences there were, today's mission of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce was finally concluded successfully. The ape creature left the imperial capital with its glory and legend. His identity and strength not only attracted great attention in the imperial dynasty, but also caused speculation and curiosity among many workers after the news spread back to the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. The strength of this being who suddenly appeared is really surprising. The key is that he has been invisible before. The powerful people in the trade area often appear on TV media. Almost one more person and one less person will attract huge attention, just like on Earth, the leaders of those armies have a similar ranking. One of them suddenly appeared, startling even his own people. While many people are speculating on his identity, they are also considering what kind of power impact such a top master will have on the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. After all, there are only so many masters, and each one is responsible for a relatively inferior unit. This envoy was rumored to have even repelled a lower-level domain lord on the way. Such a master wants to get a piece of the pie, but even Master Jia Yan has to share more benefits. This will inevitably cause huge changes in the personnel within the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, causing turmoil among the powerful people within. But it's quite unexpected. 7 days after the incident, the mysterious master who responded to the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's Xiancheng headquarters suddenly entered the headquarters in full view of the public, and then disappeared as if he had never appeared before. It was imagined that after this person emerged, he would start to stir up trouble among the top management of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Different from the situation of profit sharing, there was actually no disturbance at all. This is too strange. Dad, you are so mighty. In the station, the ape Jia Yan's clone, which was rumored by the outside world, was a little helpless at this time. No matter how much he is promoted as a mysterious master to the outside world, in front of his own daughter, there is nothing he can do against her. Jia Makiao was extremely interested in the new ape dad. It's like a child discovering a new toy. After the ape Jia Yan returned to the station, he pestered the new dad every day before he found a chance to continue sleeping. Of course, this is not the new father in the sense of ambiguity, because the clone can be regarded as the biological father. It may be difficult for outsiders to adapt to such a relationship, but for the descendants of the Jia family who have been bathed in such weird family relationships since childhood, it is normal. Therefore, when Jia Makiao was a child, she had a childish saying that she really hoped that the new biological father would look like next time. It was like opening a blind box, which made people look forward to it. Probably a similar intention was at work this time. Jia Makiao abandoned the black god clone that brought him up and sneaked here to haunt the ape father every day. As a result, the ape clone that originally wanted to sleep was unable to sleep. By the way, I have seen similar material descriptions in books before. It seems to be books in the Milky Way. Dad, why do you think the ancient books in the Milky Way have records of these materials in your body? Jia Makiao's sudden words shocked the ape clone. Can you still remember which book you are talking about? Remember, there is a copy in my room now. I will show it to you. Jia Makiao left in a hurry. The clone was a bit of an unexpected surprise. Sure enough, there are benefits to reading. At such a young age, my daughter can actually help me with this kind of thing. It's not in vain that she has been immersed in books for many years. Not long after, Jia Makiao brought several huge books. The big ones had hundreds of thousands of pages, and were much thicker than the books themselves. It took considerable strength to open them. Sure enough, there are materials that my body possesses in the galaxy. Dad, does this mean that masters from the Milky Way have interacted with the world here a long time ago, otherwise there would not be such a detailed description? Well, I'm afraid that's the case. If you look at the records above, the ancient materials they say have disappeared long ago. But what I have on my body now proves that the materials in this book really exist. Doesn't it mean that this book is it possible that many of the missing materials in the book can be found in the other world? Jia Yan became interested because his daughter happened to have read the book in full. With her memory, if she asked anything, she would be able to explain it clearly and point out which page in the book it was on. This book is quite useful. If there are similar ancient books, you'd better dig them out. They might be of great use. Okay. Jia Makiao was quite excited knowing that the knowledge he had read over the years was useful. Within a few days, there were a bunch of books around them. Many insiders who came to help often saw a strange scene, a giant ape creature that was more than 30 kilometers long, and a human girl clinging to him. Sitting on the ground together and reading a mountain of various books. It can be described as a wonderful sight. But there are not many people who are lucky enough to see the scene, and even if they see it with their own eyes, it is impossible to spread it to the outside world, because they have all signed a confidentiality agreement, and any scenery they see in the core of the station is absolutely confidential. If it is spread out, you will be jailed. In serious cases, you may even be sentenced to death. When the ape clone Ngio Mosquito and his daughter were searching for materials in full swing, the situation in the outside world has also undergone some changes due to the perfection of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's mission. This transformation did not happen overnight, but it unfolded slowly and powerfully. First, within a few days, several major garrison troops in Xiancheng began to take action. A first support force, totaling about 100,000 people, quickly took off in the direction of the nearest battlefield in the army's specially designed otherworld aircraft. This speed surprised all spies. You must know that for the dynasty forces with almost feudal civilization, it is not a simple matter to get the army to move. Before the army moves, food and grass go first. In ancient times, this was an iron rule. If you failed to do this, you would die. But the troops of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce greatly exceeded everyone's expectations, and the speed of dispatching troops was too fast. And their flying equipment is a bit ahead of its time. The flying equipment and materials are all taken from the other world itself, and they are not restricted to any purely technological principles. After all, the basic physical laws of the two worlds are slightly different. It would be extremely troublesome for the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce to summarize enough physical details in this world and then develop ultra-high science and technology. Instead of doing this, it is better to use the local Daoli technology in the inner world to assist science and technology, and then use other technologies. The scientific spirit of scientists in the world and the rapid development of technology that combines the two is not something worth shocking. In fact, scientists have made great progress in this world over the past few decades. For example, the aircraft that made all the forces in the dynasty pay attention. There are also a large number of various equipment and advanced equipment around Xiancheng, all of which are a combination of the two created by relying on their ingenuity. To put it bluntly, it is still the crystallization of science. It will still take a lot of time for them to understand the foundation of Taoist power in the other world. However, this does not prevent these scientists from combining existing technology with the basic principles of Taoist power to create something worth doing. High-end items used. It is more than enough to use it to defeat the surrounding forces of the current dynasty. But even so, the enemy is not cowed. What does the vanguard of a mere 100,000 troops count on the battlefields of battles on various branches that now number in the millions? What's more, it is said that there are many troops composed of tiny creatures inside. Many people are laughing, waiting for this group of extraterrestrial visitors from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce to have a taste of the combat power of the real army in the home world. The army is the army, the supreme machine of violence. In this world, the real highest-end combat power has always been the military's combat power. After all, the maximum limit of the life forms here is not high enough, but the average strength far exceeds that of the Milky Way and other external forces. On average, even the weakest soldiers have soldiers above the galaxy level to form troops, and then create effective means of joint combat. Let alone the so-called subdivision masters, even the master level, in the vast army, may be defeated, dragging him to death alive. Therefore, the local troops, regardless of the enemy or ourselves, do not think that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce will act like a house and move out 100,000 vanguard troops, which will have any effect. At most, he would create a small wave on the recent battlefield where millions of troops from both sides were fighting, and then be directly beaten to death in the sea. As for the dynasty, what they want is the real combat power of the galaxy behind the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. It is said that the population in the Milky Way is also extremely large. If they really gather together, they might be able to send out an endless stream of troops to stabilize the country for the dynasty. Although these so-called native troops have been cultivated by the people of the galaxy using unique methods to look different, they still don't believe that such a dissimilar army will be effective. However, the real results were quickly revealed on the battlefield. It is still a result that makes all the local people in the world in silence. The 100,000 vanguard troops from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce are an army led by Xuanghao himself, and they are modern troops with enough weapons to deal with beings in the other world. In their first battle, they encountered an oncoming enemy force of 200,000 troops. After they learned the information about the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's troops, they came towards them with an aura of incomparable contempt, preparing to strangle this Galaxy Chamber of Commerce force, which had never seen actual combat, before entering the main battlefield. But something happened that left them stunned. Just one battle. The encounter of the forward troops in World War I attracted continuous support from the large troops in the rear, and then a melee between 100,000 people and 200,000 people began. In terms of the scale of war in this world, a battle involving hundreds of thousands of people is really not considered a peerless war. But it is definitely not a small battlefield anymore. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3256. On the bloody battlefield, smoke is everywhere. But what they saw more were the corpses of coalition troops from the enemy in the other world. The heads of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce troops are extremely rare, and can even be said to be as rare as stars. The enemy leaders began to evacuate the base camp on the second day of the war. On the same day, it was announced that the base camp had been captured by the vanguard force of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Afterwards, the vanguard force of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, which had been reduced to less than 1,000 members from 100,000, quickly pursued and killed the fleeing enemy troops along the road with an indomitable momentum and the power of victory. The enemy's 200,000 troops, which originally maintained a relatively intact structure due to the order to retreat, were quickly cut up and divided into dozens of broken armies in various places. Later, this broken army was completely disbanded. 200,000 enemy troops were wiped out in 10 days and turned into deserters wandering around. It can be said that in these 10 days of short battles, a coalition force that had reached 200,000 overseas, far north bandit soldiers, some tribes in the underground world, and the far west region was defeated by a galactic force that no one had expected before. The 100,000 caravan guards of the Chamber of Commerce were beaten to the point where their parents didn't recognize them, and eventually they were wiped out and became the dust of history. At this time, the whole world was shocked. A mere pheasant force in the eyes of others actually defeated a regular force. This was enough to shock people. What was even more inexplicable was that this force even managed to completely annihilate the regular force. This is no longer a matter of luck, but a comprehensive crushing of strength. The levels belonging to both sides are completely different to some extent. Within the dynasty, everyone suddenly noticed this unique Galaxy Chamber of Commerce force. It is said that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has a large number of small creatures, but such a force actually defeated an overseas army. It is simply astonishing. Small creatures. Aren't those things like bugs? Hee, brother, you don't know something right now. The life forms in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce are also existences like small life forms. They are even smaller than the small life forms. In front of them, the small life forms are all they are like giants, so it is not surprising that they use small creatures as soldiers. This is even smaller than a tiny creature? How can the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce be so powerful, and why can the tiny creatures they train have strength that exceeds that of the official army? About this, I heard from the deserters on the front lines that the soldiers of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce have magical weapons in their hands. Some of them can spit fire and burn the enemy alive. There are also some weapons that shoot metal objects. With one blow, they can, if you don't notice, even a company captain-level expert might be tricked. Hey, aren't these hidden weapons too crooked? Crooked ways are good if they are useful. The entire dynasty was obsessed with the victory achieved by these 100,000 troops. Even the people at the bottom were talking about it, and it became a topic of conversation after dinner. You know, although the dynasty was beaten into a pot of porridge, in contrast, the ordinary people of the dynasty would not be in much danger for a while even if they fell into the hands of the enemy. They often looked at the enemy indifferently. His behavior did not even have the slightest idea of protecting the imperial power and defending his motherland. Whoever comes to power is just like changing the owner of the city. For them, there is no need for any resistance. Therefore, after fighting back and forth, the total population of both sides' troops was still a drop in the bucket compared to the dynasty's effective number of tens of billions. But after the 100,000-strong Galaxy Chamber of Commerce guards defeated the so-called invading enemy, inexplicably, the whole world seemed to be in full bloom, and the media were all reporting on it with the same caliber. Moreover, the people's perception of this army is surprisingly consistent. These escorts from the Galaxy Caravan are almost the same as their imperial army. And because they are from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, due to the good reputation of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce for decades, and the concept of advanced civilization that Xiancheng has imprinted on the hearts of all people, they all believe that this army is even more powerful than the imperial army. He loves his people even more. Perhaps these concepts are just a hint, but just a hint, like seeds taking root. When water is poured continuously, these seeds will sprout and eventually grow into towering trees, affecting people's feelings in all aspects. Boom! After an earth-shaking loud noise, a huge ship fell from the sky. What the hell? Defeat him. An enemy leader discovered this gigantic object that measured tens of millions of kilometers, and ordered his troops to attack with an extremely ugly expression. But the attacking objects in the sky are not only cannonballs, but also many strong men guarding them. When the enemy's masters come forward, these strong men will also face them. Catching the right ones one by one and fighting each other, maybe the defenders will not be too afraid of this approaching force. But the problem is that this coming army will not fight with you in a fight between the strong and the strong. What they pay attention to is efficiency. The only purpose on the battlefield is to defeat the enemy. For this reason, no matter whether you have the rules of a strong person or not, you can directly surround everyone and use all the weapons at your disposal to eliminate any vitality of the enemy. In the truth among them is what they want. At the same time, huge cannonballs fell from the sky. Each one is about 100 kilometers in size. After smashing into the enemy's military camp, it set off a huge wave. The shock wave was overwhelming and overturned countless enemy soldiers. The explosive metal objects contained inside directly nailed countless people. Even masters will be injured by this attack if they are not strong enough. This is a crushing exercise in technological equipment. The strong men in the sky were about to fight with their respective enemies when laser-like objects shot out from the unimaginably huge ship and hit the bodies of these masters. The damage power of lasers is not high, but they have unparalleled blocking power, which can effectively prevent strong people from using all kinds of weird magical powers. This is another scientific result of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. They focused on the means by which powerful people can display their abilities, and used hundreds of billions of computer calculations to finally simulate various means that could effectively prevent powerful people from using their abilities. Among them, the most effective way to greatly hinder the enemy's power is this kind of laser. Perhaps the effect is not strong for masters above the subdivision level, but for masters below the subdivision level, it is equivalent to a destructive object. Once fired, its speed of fire is still the speed of light, let alone the masters below the subdivision level. Even the strongest known person in the entire starry sky above the domain lord level cannot resist it at close range. After all, the speed of light is still the fastest speed in the universe in the eyes of countless powerful people. They can only avoid it by using their own methods instead of competing with it head-on. It is like wanting to exceed the speed of light by using subspace ability, folding space ability, or gravitational waves. The ability, rather than head-on exceeding the speed of light, because that's impossible. There's something coming at the speed of light, and there's a strong man fighting you head-on. How do you stop it? As a result, the entire military camp was suddenly filled with smoke, enemy soldiers were screaming everywhere, and limbs were broken everywhere. This is the first Galaxy aircraft carrier No. 1 from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. The name seems very ordinary, but the actual meaning is completely different. When the masters from the Milky Way came here and saw that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce was spending almost all their financial resources to build such a giant ship, they were all dumbfounded. That is one of the reasons why the 6 masters from the Galaxy Central Star region are willing to listen to Jia Yan's orders in obscurity in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Such a warship with a length of tens of millions of kilometers and many other advanced concepts is unprecedented in this world. If there is a chance to let it go to the Milky Way, it is really possible to load a shipload of living planets and transport them to various parts of the galaxy for sale. And the combat ability of this thing is even more terrifying. As far as the central star field is concerned, as long as there are certain strong people, even their forces may not be able to resist such a world-class aircraft carrier. Today is also the day when this space carrier shows its majesty for the first time. Why can we make such a thing? Why can we make such a thing, this Galaxy Chamber of Commerce? A lost enemy general looked up outside the camp and stared at the huge warship that suddenly appeared above his head. It was as if he had been hit by an immobilization spell and could not move at all. He is also a famous general. Since the beginning of the war, he has led troops from overseas all the way into the hinterland of the Imperial Island. He has won every battle, which may be a bit exaggerated, but he is almost invincible and has few opponents. Just now, he was caught off guard by encountering such a behemoth, which was like the arrival of a god. He didn't know how to deal with it at all. "General, run away." A personal guard rushed forward, and when a cannonball exploded beside him, he pushed him away, but he was drowned in endless gunfire. Obviously, the huge warship in the sky knows how to pick people to eat, and there is no way they would let such an obvious commander go. After such a push, the general finally reacted. No matter how shocked he is, the first thing is to save his own life. As for the troops under his command, let's save our lives first. The general began to run exhausted, and he found that in the general tents in all directions, many colleagues with the same rank and position as him were also fleeing towards the outside world like headless flies. Some of them even took off their clothes while running away. The general suddenly understood and began to take off his clothes. This battle has been declared officially over before it officially started. In front of the 10-million-kilometer class aircraft carrier warship that bombarded it indiscriminately upon its appearance, the endless enemy troops underground began to collapse as soon as they came face to face. Divine soldiers descend from heaven. This battle is not the vanguard of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. It was a force called the Naval Guards. Although they were not a force that sailed in the sea, Jia Yan strongly requested it, and everyone reluctantly accepted the name. This navy was added to the list to support the imperial forces. Originally, after the dynasty got the list of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, they were still a little confused. What did the so-called navy mean? Could there be any more navy troops coming ashore to support their dynasty? This shows that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is really stretched thin, and even navy soldiers are sent here. But I never expected that this so-called navy would be such a unique navy. As soon as he showed up, he was killed like a river of blood, and he skipped the front of the main battlefield and sneak attacked a unit that was not originally involved in the confrontation with the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. This force is on the flank of the frontal force, preparing to join forces with other forces to attack a large city in the dynasty. Unexpectedly, he was killed in the war before he could use his power. Surprisingly, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce Naval Guards, which became famous for this battle, also became famous, and once they became famous, their situation far exceeded the 100,000 frontline troops before. The attack was carried out at night. The soldiers and civilians in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce No. 1 aircraft carrier did not know how many enemy troops they faced. In short, they only knew that the enemy was defeated at the first touch, and the damage to their own side was minimal. But after counting the casualties after the war and asking for information from the enemy, they were shocked. The total strength of the troops on their aircraft carrier, including the cooks and many sweepers who serve ordinary soldiers, is only a little over 30,000. But in just one battle, with almost no damage, an enemy army of 500,000 people was completely defeated as the main force. The military strength difference was more than 10 times, but the battle-loss ratio was so high, which has created the entire history of the dynasty. As a result of this battle, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce Navy became famous, and its momentum far surpassed that of the forward army. All the enemies and ourselves have heard the name of this nearly invincible force. Moreover, the enemy has a splitting headache and has been arranging manpower to observe the sky all day long. Otherwise, they would be completely unable to defend themselves if they were attacked by such a force descending from the sky one day. Live. As for the dynasty, they were overjoyed. Counting this battle, after the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce sent troops, they won consecutive battles. After 2 battles, they defeated nearly 1 million troops of the enemy alliance in this area, which can be said to have greatly alleviated part of the pressure on the dynasty. And this is less than 1/10 of the troops promised by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. If millions of troops were sent out together, if they all had such combat power, or even if they didn't have such combat power, if they were a little weaker than this, they would still be at least worth 5 million enemy troops, right? It is equivalent to handing over an entire major battlefield to the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. How could they not be happy? But while they were happy, some ministers also made different voices. For example, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has such shocking combat power. If it defeats the enemy and allows the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce to have more power and money due to the agreement, wouldn't it be a disaster? But who would pay more attention to such long-term matters than the imminent dynasty crisis? As a result, those who made these voices either ceased their activities or were aggressive, and disappeared directly from the main political arena of the dynasty. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3257. The people in power in the dynasty are mainly thinking about how to regain their homeland and then deal with the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. At least so far, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has not revealed even a trace of its thoughts and motives of wanting to win over the dynasty's territory. After all, their life structure is different from that of the people of the dynasty. Even if they can crush the dynasty with force, how can they do it? There are definitely many dissatisfied people in the dynasty they face, and it is impossible to maintain stability even if they are defeated. Instead of doing this, why not continue to maintain superficial peace with the dynasty and enjoy the fruits of victory together in the future? This is the philosophy of many in power. It is also a helpless concept. But it is also the best idea. Otherwise, without the help of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce to resist some of the pressure, what can we do to resist the huge pressure from Allied forces and the financially empty dynasty? Damn it! The so-called Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is simply asking for death. The Mantis arm is just a car. The power of our coalition forces will let the Chamber of Commerce see how huge the background between the two sides is. It's just the combat power possessed by some strange and obscene skills. Just wait and see. Our history has not recorded such outsiders, but without exception, they eventually disappeared in our land. After a few days there will be plans to deal with them coming from home. In the alliance of several major forces, in a fallen city somewhere in the southwest of the dynasty, the military leaders were discussing the new threat from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. This small Chamber of Commerce force, which was not valued by everyone, actually made people look at them with admiration in this short period of half a war. Many senior executives present at the meeting had a headache. They said they were relatively confident, but their hearts were filled with some kind of fear of the unknown. They said a lot of words to encourage morale, but in the end, it seemed that they said nothing at all. This is like a fart for the league as a whole. At this time, a certain figure who had been sitting silently behind the major leaders spoke. If you can't come to a conclusion, then each of you will send out 200,000 troops to block the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's front. In short, you can't let this force come out to disrupt the rhythm of our attack before making key progress in other aspects. There are several distinct major forces in this conference center. Among them, there are several upper-level officials who are dressed more like members of the imperial dynasty. All of them are sitting together. 200,000. Most of our tribes in the underground world are unwilling to join this fight. We only rely on a few major tribes and our military strength is not large. Now it is really difficult for us to spare 200,000 troops. Can it be less? Yes, the tribes we are waiting for coming from the west are also a bit stretched. If it is reduced to 100,000, we can consider it. Hey, you two, are you planning to preserve your strength? Don't make such plans. I, the Emperor of the Northern Kingdom, have made an agreement with you and promised that the future territory of the dynasty will be shared with you, so I will not go back on my promise. Since if you have any scruples, how about sending some of the 200,000 troops from our far north, and our far north will take the lead? Is this sincerity enough? You too. The talker from the far north came forward and quickly got the leader of the far west wilderness tribe and the high-level officials of the underground world who joined the battle to hesitantly agree to the issue. Don't feel bad, everyone. Our overseas troops will also move in large numbers. Each wave of troops will send 200,000 troops. In this way, the total strength of the front line of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce will exceed 1 million, plus our own troops. There are millions of troops, 2 million troops, I don't believe it. The Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, which is only stretched thin, can still make waves. Among the main participants in this conference hall, almost all the authority is occupied by high-level invaders from outside the sea. Not only in terms of military strength, but also in terms of the number of strong men and so on, the overall quality is dominated by these forces from the outer sea. Local forces such as the underground world forces, the extreme northern thieves, and the forces in the wild lands of the west cannot compete with them. Comparable. There were also some envoys from the major local anti-thief forces sitting underneath, but they were completely incomparable with the major forces. These forces gathered together are all the forces that are currently causing trouble for the dynasty. However, you cannot underestimate the power of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce and the so-called extraterrestrial visitors. Although the so-called space carrier is just a joke to experts like us, we cannot ignore its role in war. If this space carrier appears next time, please pass on the information as soon as possible, and we will organize experts to sink it. Well, this is a method, otherwise the so-called mothership will indeed cause trouble. Many of the leaders present must be masters at the master level themselves. Otherwise, not only will they be unable to control the situation, but they will also make other people in the alliance look down on their own forces. So they can be sure that the so-called space carrier should not pose a great threat to their master-level experts, unless there are other weapons they don't know about. Judging from the information currently available, the overall strength of the space carrier is not very large, and there are very few strong ones at the master level, or there is no one at all. As long as they learn the information about the space carrier, they will dispatch immediately. 3 or 5 guru-level experts would surely sink it. After deciding on a course of action, the entire enemy force that was ravaging the dynasty suddenly made sudden changes. Several major armies began to adjust their personnel. Each of the invading forces divided some of their forces, and none of them were marginal troops. They were at least the elite level of the sub-main force. Under the supervision of other allies, they rushed to enter the battlefield newly opened by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Direction. In that direction, as the vanguard of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce marched out of the boundaries of Xiancheng with great vigor, and after fighting with their respective pre-arranged enemy forces, it became a mess. Often, a small force of 350,000 to 50,000 people from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce can withstand an enemy force that is approximately 5 times more powerful. Even some elite troops were unable to deal with even 5 times their strength. After causing huge casualties to the opponent, the enemy army collapsed, and the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce advanced step by step. The good news kept spreading. From the beginning, the entire Xiancheng was in ecstasy, with some people taking to the streets and shouting, "Long live the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce!" Later, everyone became numb. Often when good news comes, some merchants in Xiancheng pretend to be celebrating, but in fact they are selling their goods. Of course, since Xiancheng was confirmed to be semi-publicly acquired by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, more and more people have begun to become full supporters of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, especially as their lives are getting better and better, surpassing the vast majority of the dynasty. After the city, this cohesion reached an unprecedented level. The Xiancheng City Lord's mansion has become a bit deserted. It seems that it is still dealing with government affairs, but no one comes to visit anymore. "Lord City Lord, we have a request from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce." This, I understand the City Lord was dealing with government affairs. Hearing this, he was shocked and nodded with some surprise. He packed up his luggage, flew out of the City Lord's mansion, and visited the majestic Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's new headquarters next to Xiancheng. And go. To this day, this City Lord who still has some ability cannot understand why things have developed to this point. The initial development of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce was supported by him with all his strength, and he also acquiesced to many of the privileges of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. But what he never expected was that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, which was operating underground, how could it be possible, and how could it dare to do so, so obviously rebellion against the dynasty? What made him even more confused was that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce was successful. He has finally been completely ignored in these years, but fortunately, many government affairs are still left to him, and the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has also sent someone to help him, so he found that his ability in government affairs has not only improved over the years, but increased exaggeratedly. It's a blessing, not a curse. It's a curse that can't be avoided. Today is probably the time for them to show their cards. The City Lord knows that he is a disharmonious factor in Xiancheng after all. Although the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has actually taken Xiancheng long ago, the addition of a high-ranking official of the dynasty like him will inevitably lead to some misconceptions. Recently, with the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce sending envoys to the capital of the dynasty, and the two sides drawing up an agreement similar to an alliance, the awkward existence of Xiancheng has finally come to an end. The dynasty was willing to give up even greater interests, not to mention the small Xiancheng. After all, Xiancheng had not reported or submitted even one annual report to the dynasty for decades. Even a year's worth of taxes. Now that the situation has become even clearer, will he, the City Lord in name only, finally come to the end? Well. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but sigh again. He didn't know how the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce would deal with him, an imperial official who was no longer useful. If he could leave Xiancheng unharmed, it would be great news. But what can we do if we leave Xiancheng? Many people in the imperial dynasty may have long regarded themselves as fellow travelers of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Can they really live a good and stable life after dragging their families out of Xiancheng? Let alone continue to be an official. During the decades of rapid development in Xiancheng, he had learned too many advanced governance concepts from many political officials of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. He would not be willing to go to another place and become a white man. Coming. Just after he entered the headquarters of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce with various thoughts, he soon heard the voice of the assassin. I've met the assassin. The city lord is also an extremely bachelor. He was a small businessman at the beginning, but now he has become what he calls an adult. This is also where he knows the current affairs, otherwise he would have been easily handled by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Sit down, my place is not as big as your city lord's mansion, I will make the city lord suffer. Black God Jia Yan smiled and pointed to the open space. Just like what he said, the city lord himself is not very tall, but he is still more than 2,000 kilometers tall. In Jia Yan's conference room, it seemed very cramped. After all, the black god Jia Yan and Jia Yan's true form are no more than 100 kilometers in size. There is no need for an office that is tens of thousands of kilometers long. It would be uncomfortable to fly, so it is better to make the guests uncomfortable. The city lord didn't dare to mention the word uncomfortable at all. After responding repeatedly, he sat down on a chair to the side respectfully. Fortunately, the quality of the chairs and so on is very good. After all, you can just buy them on the street. This time I asked the city lord to come over during his busy schedule. There are some important things that I want to discuss with you. I wonder how the city lord feels about your current life. Well, I feel pretty good. Xiancheng is now many times better than it was during the reign of the city lord. I can even wake up laughing in my dreams. Black God Jia Yan smiled without meaning, nodded and said, Xiao Qiao, go get those documents and show them to the city lord. Yes. Beside Jia Yan, Jia Maqiao, who acted as his assistant, got up and fetched some documents. These documents are naturally large enough for the city lord to read. After looking through a lot of documents, the city lord suddenly looked a little frightened. Because these documents were not the Xiancheng documents he imagined, but information documents from surrounding cities. Moreover, these documents are not like simple records of the dynasty's subordinate cities, but have extremely detailed introductions, filled with various data, such as population, economy, food, special products, advantages, etc. Extremely detailed everything was recorded, which shows how carefully the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce investigated these cities. These are. After hurriedly reading a page or two, he put down the paper in his hand with a somewhat gloomy expression and looked at the black god clone. In fact, he had already guessed something, and his heart began to beat rapidly, but he couldn't believe this fact. Haha, the city lord should be a smart man. You should have guessed what I want to say. The black god clone said with a smile. Master Assassin wants his subordinates to take charge of these cities. The city lord gritted his teeth and made this bold guess. Black god Jia Yan shook his head and said, you are not capable of controlling so many cities now. Please. The city lord must also know this. Indeed, my ability, if viewed from the perspective of the dynasty, is now rising. Not to mention a few small cities, even the entire dynasty can manage it. However, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is different. Your management methods, I still have to learn, but my abilities are here. If you give me 10 years, I will definitely learn the same ability. Jia Yan knew that it didn't take much effort to talk to smart people, and the other person would be able to understand what he wanted to say directly. So, the city lord wants to take control. Yes, if you go higher, I have been sitting in this position for too many years. Presumably the assassin is not interested in my ability, but my identity. Don't worry, if you are willing to give me the position due to my status, I will know clearly what I should do and what I should not do. Ha ha ha, you are indeed the person I like, and you are indeed a quick talker. Black God Jia Yan laughed boldly. At his signal, Jia Makiao took other documents from the other side and handed them over. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3258. At one glance, the Lord of Xiancheng couldn't help but his eyelids twitched wildly. I saw that these were letters of appointment from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Different from the Imperial Dynasty's appointment method, and different from any appointment method he knew, the official position was still the City Lord, but with the words Acting General Manager of Ru, Xie, Wei, and other cities added in front. In other words, he can control nearly 10 cities. After a few more glances, his heart suddenly started beating faster. He is preparing to become a model, to be promoted to the public by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, and as a local official of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. He is from the local area, has a certain prestige, and has good knowledge and ability to integrate with the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. In this regard, he surpasses all the officials who have taken refuge in the dynasty, and he is really the only one worthy of being promoted by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Figure. As we all know, it is impossible for the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce to perfectly integrate with the local people because of their race. If they are allowed to personally rule the people of the dynasty, the conflicts that will arise will definitely be greater than imagined. Therefore, let him, a former bureaucrat, come to power and serve as a new political core to promote the entire land belonging to the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Only in this way can he gradually win over people's hearts and develop a territory that belongs only to the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Only. The City Lord didn't know how far the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce wanted to develop. He probably couldn't guess how ambitious the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce was. In fact, even Jia Yan himself is not very clear about it. Coming to the other world was just a matter of following the knowledge from ancient books revealed by Gigi, and coming here to make a breakthrough. The territory and momentum he had today were inexplicably achieved, which was also a surprise to him. But no strong person would tolerate not chasing after the opportunity. Even in the outside world, countless experts had heard about the trade zone at this time and came to queue up to wait for the political review process in the hope of entering that day in the new world. This is the path that belongs to the strong. Looking at the entire Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, and even Jia Yan saw today's Nyadala world and the many masters of the universe who entered the other world, it was all like this, without any exception. Maybe when they become strong, greed is engraved deep in their genes. The strength of these follow-up troops of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is indeed a bit worse than the original ones. We still have a chance. When the follow-up troops of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce met the enemy armies facing each other head-on, and a tense confrontation briefly formed, this battle situation caused many people to worry. The appearance battle of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce really shocked everyone. But after all, not all of the subsequent troops were as strong as the elite vanguards, and not everyone was as well equipped, so a local tug-of-war formed. A troop from a tribe in the underground world was part of a partial division that had been broken up. After they learned about the progress of the battle, they couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. Because this partial division is about to encounter the new Galaxy Chamber of Commerce troops. Scouts from both sides encountered each other early this morning. After a fierce fight, each other suffered casualties. You see, this so-called Chamber of Commerce force is not as scary as the legend says. At least what we faced is not as scary as we imagined. But the number of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce guards our unit faces is the same as ours. Judging from the battle conditions in other places, this Galaxy Chamber of Commerce troops are very evil. No matter how weak they can compete with troops with several times the number of troops. Those guys from outside the sea obviously want us to die. Who made us underground troops not all join this land landing operation? If we are still monolithic, no one can despise us. It's all that damn Black Flower's fault. If it hadn't been for her, our underground clan's wish to see the light of day again this time and live under the sun would have come true. Various discussions arose in this camp, among which the pursuit of the Black Flower was the most intense. The entire underground clan alliance chose not to take advantage of the situation and enter the ground because of Black Flower's interference. Their reason is that although the dynasty is weak, as an underground tribe that has been fighting against the dynasty for tens of thousands of years, they should also know how powerful the dynasty is. God knows whether they will drag an old enemy with them when they are dying. Go into the water, and this old friend is probably an underground clan who has been feuding with the dynasty for tens of thousands of years. What he said was clear and logical, but more people knew that this was because Haiwa himself had a good personal relationship with the president of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Everyone, I am an envoy from the tribe at the bottom of the land. Just when the generals of this underground tribe's partial division were discussing how to deal with the enemy, a voice suddenly sounded. Who? Everyone in the camp suddenly felt like they were facing a powerful enemy. They looked around with different expressions in their eyes. It turned out that it was the traitor from the underground tribe they were discussing just now, Black Flower. This female underground master looks like an enlarged version of a dark-skinned woman, with eyes as charming as silk. But there is a kind of brilliance that chooses people and devours them. Don't be nervous, everyone. Although I have heard your words, I also know that this is human nature and I will not be angry with you. It's just that you should do less of such slanderous things behind your back in the future. Haiwa, I don't need you to correct me on what I do. Please speak frankly about what you are doing. One general said with a sneer. Although Black Flower quietly sneaked into their camp, they were confident that if they acted together, this well-known new top master in the underground world would also be killed by their offensive. As the top masters of their respective tribes, they know each other's combat capabilities very well. My envoy has just said that I am here to convey information from the Alliance. Of course, the Alliance is just giving you suggestions. Whether you abide by it or not is up to us. As for the Alliance, there is an alliance in the underground world, but the symbolic significance of this alliance is far greater than its substantive significance. In the last meeting, these major tribes were determined to enter the ground and take advantage of the situation to seize several recuperation sites. As a result, the vast majority of the tribes were unwilling to participate under the vortex of Black Flowers. The alliance was showing signs of falling apart at that time. Now that there are any envoys from the alliance coming to convey instructions, this matter is intriguing. Hey, if there is something wrong with the alliance, please speak up. But I'm sorry for offending you. We have already stated that we will not abide by the Alliance's instructions for this campaign. Yes, we are about to acquire a lot of territory. You don't want to pick peaches, do you? Several generals were watching with cold eyes. They wouldn't believe anything about the Alliance's orders. Today, they are like an independent unit. They are said to be members of the underground clan, but in fact it is not an exaggeration to think of them as a force that splintered from other underground worlds. It is just that they are not separated from the underground clan in name. That's all. Guys, please don't be too nervous. How about you listen to my instructions first and then show your face? Black Flower is as stable as a mountain. Over the years, as a young and emerging master of the underground world, her demeanor and self-cultivation gradually caught up with her strength, and she began to become unfathomable. Okay, I'll wait to hear what His Excellency Haiwa has to say. Black Flower spoke eloquently. For tens of thousands of years, we, the underground clan, have been pursuing the day when we can see the light of day again. To this end, I don't know how many seniors have been sacrificed, and I don't know how many warriors have shed their blood. Over these tens of thousands of years, there have been dozens of wars recorded by the tribe for me. Every time, heads and blood were shed, but they were often driven back underground by the dynasty. This also made our tribe become more cautious. Have you forgotten that several times? After we were driven back underground for the first time, our vitality was severely damaged, several big clans were wiped out, and the rest of the clans were also crumbling, right? Humph. Of course we know these historical records, but thousands of years have passed since the latest war. Black Flower, you will never use these things. You just want us to go back to the underground, right? This is too naive. That's right. Black Flower shook his head and said, of course that's not the case. Everyone, this time we and other tribes are unwilling to join the battle group prematurely. In fact, it's not that we don't want to fight anymore, but that we already have intelligence and collaborators, so we don't joining the battle group too early. So many years of failed experience tell us that if the underground clan wants to achieve something, it cannot be achieved casually, and you don't want to make the same mistake again, right? When these words came out, all the generals were unable to react for a moment. Haihua was the staunch opposition at the beginning. They had an argument with Haihua, but the argument turned red in the face. But now, looking at it, it seems that this woman is not simply opposed to landing on the ground. But there is another hidden secret? Haihua, don't be pretentious. Please tell me what the order is and how we should do it. Black Flower finally stopped playing tricks, pointed in the direction of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce troops outside the camp and said, in fact, I have already reached an offensive and defensive alliance agreement with the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, and other senior leaders of the big tribes have also agreed to this matter, so I came to the front line this time just to ask you if you are willing to join. You have seen the recent combat effectiveness of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. I think they are more capable of achieving things, and more importantly, this Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is the main force. As aliens from the sky, they cannot truly rule the Imperial land, and if this happens, won't we have the opportunity to wait for the underground tribes? This. The generals seemed to hear morning bells and evening drums for a moment, and were shocked on the spot. Finally someone swallowed and said, so, you have already estimated the situation of today's battle? But why didn't you tell us earlier? You know that in the previous war, our tribes also sacrificed many soldiers. If we form an alliance with the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, wouldn't it be tantamount to forming an alliance with the Imperial Dynasty, our former ally? Haihua laughed freely and said, what do you think? Our underground clan wants to form an alliance with the Imperial Dynasty. Neither we nor they can agree to this, so what we do is what we have already lost in the Imperial Dynasty. It's hard for the dynasty to say anything about expanding their territory in their homeland. After all, they don't want to open another front. As for why I didn't tell you earlier, do you really have a personality that we can persuade you to persuade? Besides, these foreign invading forces must also put forward some combat power to paralyze them, so that it can be convenient for me in the underground world to dispatch troops. At this time, all the generals of the underground world tribes present looked at each other. Finally, after their eyes met for a moment, they raised their heads to meet Haihua's faceless face, and both sighed helplessly. They knew that they and others had been busy forming alliances with the invaders and fighting, but today it was all a waste. They can also choose to continue to be attached to the invaders, but in this case, their respective tribes are still in the base camp of the underground world, and their families, tribal resources, etc. are equivalent to falling into the hands of the underground alliance, because that by then the two sides had become hostile. And Black Flower has something to say. The situation of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is more suitable for forming an alliance. The group of foreign invaders, whether they are overseas forces or bandits from the far west and far north, are actually people who want to burn bridges by crossing rivers and burning bridges. Moreover, they all have great ambitions and potential. Who can once the territory is truly established, it may be possible to form the prototype of the next dynasty. Perhaps the underground tribe is busy making wedding dresses for others in the future. Just like the underground clan who conquered the empire for the dynasty tens of thousands of years ago, and then were forced to cross the river and demolish the bridge. Of course, no one can tell what was right or wrong about something that happened so long ago. In short, they must make a more correct choice now. The Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is a safer option no matter from any aspect. Forget it, let's just think that we have worked hard for the alliances bleeding before, and please ask the Black Flower Messenger not to care about the bad words in the past. Of course this envoy won't care about that. I would also like to ask you generals not to care about the little girl's previous arrogance. Where, that's the case, I wonder what the alliance means in the next fight with the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. These generals all knew that the reason why Hua came forward at such an important juncture must be because they were about to meet the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce troops. If nothing is done, the underground tribes and the underground tribes will lose credibility with the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Even if the alliance explains that these tribes are separated from the underground alliance, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce will not believe it, or even if they believe it on the surface, they will not believe it in their hearts. There will also be a bump on the head. Since we want to join the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, we have to make some contributions. You can do the same. Hua came to the sand table map of the camp, pointed at the passes everywhere, and began to point out the country. The generals listened and soon understood. The troops in front are from several major tribes in the underground world. It is rumored that they are tribes that have quarrels with most of the tribes in the underground world. You must make a clear distinction. These tribes are enemies. Those who encounter other tribes in the future are ours. Allies, please don't make the wrong attack and cause unnecessary conflicts. How can we tell the difference? The underground people are all black, and we are not their tribe. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3259. That's right. It's all the fault of this underground tribe. They are so good at creating a division, which makes us restrained in fighting. From my point of view, all the underground people I see in the future will do it. I don't like them anyway. Watch your tone, Colonel. You are now a senior official of the 15th Army of our Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Your words and deeds represent the face of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. As long as you are still wearing the military uniform, do not say anything that will discredit our army. Understand? I understand, but I really don't know how to tell the difference. Do you think some dark underground man will come over later and say they are our coalition forces? Should I fight or not? If I don't fight, will it happen? Will someone trick me into opening the camp gate? A high-level military official was asked several questions by his subordinates, a prince of a small human tribe who was collectively referred to as an insect by people in the dynasty. This prince is the son of the tribal leader of a small human tribe, and is also called the prince of this tribe. However, after he ruled Xiancheng in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, he endured hardships and stood hard work, graduated from the military academy with actual results, and eventually became the supreme commander of this partial army has the rank of colonel. At this time, while he was talking, he was also slandering the underground clan in his heart. Be prepared to engage. The leader told his subordinates. Colonel, there's a situation. Situation? Could it be that the enemy has received support? The prince's face twitched violently, and he became wary. Competition is fierce within the entire Galaxy Chamber of Commerce guards. Not to mention that he is just a prince of a small human tribe. Even if he comes from a royal family and is the prince of the current dynasty, it is unlikely that he will get a good promotion opportunity. Today's Galaxy Chamber of Commerce front army is progressing smoothly, but if he becomes his example, the problem will be too big. No matter what the actual situation is, whether the enemy has an ambush or reinforcements, as long as he is defeated and becomes the only black spot for the entire army's victory, He has no responsibility and must be held accountable. So he was particularly worried about something going on ahead. No. The underground troops came to negotiate peace. Huh? Make peace? Yes, it is said that they will turn around and attack other enemy forces. Ah. That's good. Come on, let the messenger come in. The prince suddenly jumped up and was overjoyed. If the situation is good, it will not be a shock, but a surprise. The enemy they thought was a formidable enemy suddenly changed their guns. Shooting at the enemy makes everyone happy. The underground tribe was originally pushed out by the enemy alliance as the first gunpoint to deal with the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce troops. However, at the moment when the two sides were about to engage in hand-to-hand combat with great fanfare, they suddenly switched sides. This incident not only shocked the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce troops who came to fight with the underground clan, but also shocked the invading coalition forces who wanted to see the outcome of the battle. What was most caught off guard was the coalition forces from several major parties who were attacked by the underground tribe. They colluded with some members of the confused Galaxy Chamber of Commerce and attacked their main formation. No one expected it. By the time he reacted, it was already too late. The troops of the underground clan used some unknown method to falsely open the camp gate, attacked a barracks of soldiers from the outer sea, and killed them in one go. Next, there are the escorts from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. The little human prince's face turned red. If they didn't want to believe in the sincerity of the underground tribe before, now they are watching the underground troops attack the enemy's base camp without hesitation, killing people like rivers of blood. They still don't believe it. Kill. Making great achievements is just around the corner. This troop is crazy. Most of them are life forms from small races. From ancient times to the present, they have not played a big role in the civilization of the imperial dynasty. Even if there are one or two examples, they are just a flash in the pan. Not to mention a powerful army, which has never been recorded in history. This is the time when these races are at their most glorious. The sound of footsteps going to death was endless, and every small individual soldier from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce rushed to the front. The weapons in their hands are rifles retired by the front-line troops. They are also somewhat modeled and have obvious signs of use. Fortunately, these guns have been strictly inspected before being handed over to them, and the general condition is not the same. Difference. Snap, snap, snap. Gunfire rang out. Before the confrontation, the guards of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce used a wave of long-range fire coverage, allowing the opponent to see what a magic attack was. At this moment, the enemy troops, who were somewhat unfamiliar with the fighting style of ordinary troops of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, seemed to be suddenly confused. They never expected that the troops of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce would even use magic attacks. In the battle of troops in the other world, even if there are long-range troops, they are only at the bow and arrow level. Even if Daoli's team carries out coverage attacks, it is quite rare. But the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce troops regard guns as their main weapons. The poor close combat ability of individual soldiers cannot be made up for in a short time. It is also the biggest flaw of the entire Galaxy Chamber of Commerce today. From the beginning to the end, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has never said that its individual strength is strong enough, and even the strong ones are far behind others. But where are they so strong? Very simply, it lies in the concept of war between technology and modern China. 3/3 army system. Cut, outflank. A large number of modern tactics and combat concepts are used on the battlefield. What's even more terrifying is that most of these commanders who use tactics are not veterans with battlefield experience, but rookies who have never been on a serious battlefield. In other words, they can fight like this now. After a fierce battle and accumulation of experience, I am afraid that their tactical abilities will be greatly improved. This is another terrifying aspect of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Their room for improvement is still huge. That's right. Team number 3 is outflanking the 118th square, cutting off the enemy. Be careful to use long-range coverage to suppress the enemy. There is movement from the enemy on the left. Team 173 will attack me. If you can't stand it, don't come back. The little human prince smelled the blood and fire on the battlefield. He seemed to be drunk, and every cell in his body was singing some kind of wild cry. He knew that this was a sign of filial piety from his ancestors. These small human races, as well as many small intelligent life races, have suffered countless humiliations over the years. They even have no status in the dynasty and are often treated as if they were insects. But now, he, the little human prince, was commanding an army to attack those huge life forms that once looked down on them, and beat them to the point where they were scared to death. Just thinking about it made him so excited that he had goosebumps all over his body. But even in the current situation, he has not lost his sense of proportion. The strict training of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is to prevent them from being confused and unable to remember anything in this situation. Ha ha ha, this is what we small beings have been doing for tens of thousands of years. No, it is the filial piety we have been doing since ancient times. Listen carefully to us. The prince seemed to be crying and laughing, his hair exploding, as if he had drunk the most delicious wine. Of course, if you dare to brag about this kind of thing in front of your subordinates, for the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, there are still a lot of huge racial soldiers and even high-level officials. If you say this to the outside, I am afraid he will end up as a racist. If you wear a hat, you will not only lose your military rank, but you may also enter a military court, which is a very serious consequence. But no one cares so much at this time. On the battlefield of blood and fire, the smoke was everywhere, and countless roars and screams completely covered up the madness of many small life armies. Under the command of their superiors, they faithfully executed tactics and combat actions. In confusion, many people gradually recovered the countermeasures and actions they had used during training. Such soldiers, after 1 or 2 battles, will become extremely qualified veterans who can stand alone. And coincidentally, the fighting style of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce troops gives the troops a very high chance of survival, which means that they have a higher chance of becoming useful. After all, even a pig would turn into a fighting pig after fighting dozens or hundreds of wars. What's more, their intelligence is not inferior to those of large races. Ah! These insects are crazy. What exactly are their weapons? Is there something explosive? Come and kill a bunch of people. I can't resist it at all. Is this the so-called Galaxy Chamber of Commerce troops? They are all hidden weapons. We can't stop it. We can't stop their attack at all. There was a Deo-level master just now who could easily tear apart ordinary enemies on the battlefield, but he died in such a wave of explosions. Run away, this war cannot be fought. When the local tribesmen rushed into the enemy camp, the commanders in the camp had already taken advantage of the chaos to escape. And under the subsequent long-range attack by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce troops, coupled with the baptism of artillery fire, these troops collapsed even more violently. They were completely at a loss for the Galactic Chamber of Commerce troops, who were able to use long-range combat methods and had no strategy to deal with them. Even senior officials chose to flee for their lives immediately. Other ordinary soldiers would not risk their lives to resist. This sudden revolt was so fast that it started but ended in an anticlimax. After only about half an hour, the camp seemed to be deserted, with only the underground tribes and the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce troops left. Good guy, the troops led by this general are truly amazing. At this time, the masters of the underground tribe no longer dared to look down upon the troops of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Although they were shocked when they saw the commander of the troops, they were a small human race that was less than 100 kilometers away, but they still showed respect on their faces. The little human prince felt that his heart was sore to the bone. You must know that the underground tribe is said to be different from the other major races in the dynasty, but at heart they are exactly the same as the dynasty. They also extremely dislike the small human race, and define most of the similar large and small life forms as insects. Nowadays, this group of people who are definitely high-level people in the underground tribe are treating a small human like him with great courtesy. How can he feel unhappy? But the more such a moment is, the less likely it is to lose one's composure. I am the commander of the 2nd Regiment of the 3rd Division of the 5th Army of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce Ground Army. Please call me Colonel Bean. Hello, Colonel Bean, we are a few elders from the underground tribe. Come on, our coalition forces have defeated the enemy so neatly. It's time to come over to reminisce and celebrate. No, are you guys happy with just such a small amount of military exploits? Prince Bean shook his head and signaled to his subordinates to bring a map from the field and pointed to several places on it. These are the locations of the nearby invader troops. We have made complete pre-war preparations. Next, the colonel will send troops to attack the enemy forces in these areas one by one. If you are willing, I want to temporarily take over your command, and attack these enemy forces together with us until all the enemy forces in this area are wiped out. Do you agree? Ah! The senior leaders of these underground tribes were all surprised. You know, they just won a big victory, shouldn't it be time to rejoice and distribute rewards to subordinate soldiers? Are the troops of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce still thinking about expanding their victory? These troops are not easy to fight. Their numbers are much larger than ours. Even if we divide our troops to attack various places, if they come to support us, we may be beaten. No, we have already made preparations for this matter. We will send air forces to harass other enemy forces. It will be impossible for them to return quickly for reinforcements. Air Force. Several senior members of the underground clan took a clear look at the group of Galaxy Chamber of Commerce soldiers with different military uniforms who had been dropping bombs on the battlefield just now. This group of soldiers is generally strong enough, and they have the characteristics of being very flexible and fast in flying. Some even wear streamlined military uniforms in order to reduce air resistance, which makes them they look like characters from science fiction. They had been dropping bombs in mid-air just now. When an enemy master came out to snipe them, they took advantage of their speed to leave the battlefield. When the masters came down to the ground battlefield, they would stick back to the ground and drop bombs, beating the enemy so hard. Ask him to eat Coptus chinensis, and the pain will be hard to explain. With such troops, can we delay the enemy? The senior leaders of these underground tribes still don't have that much confidence in the Air Force. After all, in their opinion, these air forces are just a group of beings who are not strong enough. If they attack those large forces, wouldn't it be easy for them to be killed by enemy masters jumping into the sky? After all, this is another world, and the so-called Air Force is not really the only ones flying in the sky. The flying speed of various masters is still faster than that of ordinary Air Force existences, because no matter what technological equipment you use, it is impossible to close the gap in strength all of a sudden. Don't worry, our Air Force can do it. Just tell me whether you agree or disagree. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3260. This, we agree. In the end, these senior officials from the underground tribe thought of what Black Flower had told them before and agreed with the words of the colonel of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce troops. What else could be done? They have all surrendered to the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Now there is only one way to go, otherwise can they turn back? That will only frustrate both ends and turn into a real meat sauce. The decision you made is very smart. Next, I will let you see the combat method of our Galaxy Chamber of Commerce." The Colonel and Prince smiled. The little human, who was still excited before, finally felt proud, and proud, has calmed down a lot. He found that he could look straight at, or even look down at, many ethnic people who usually could only kneel down and worship. But it's not enough yet. The ambition in his heart grew even greater. He wants to become a true high-level military official, so that more races and masters can become equal to him, until the entire small human race can feel proud, and finally, the small human race can obtain the status of a real ordinary life form. Okay, now it depends on your sincerity. Come with me. Good. This day, the war breaks out again, and the underground tribesmen on this front suddenly switch sides, shocking the world again. In terms of the enemy alliance, internal discord began to appear. After all, the underground tribe is not a small force. Their defection dealt a huge blow to the already unstable invader alliance and made it even more unstable. Along with this, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce alliance is gaining momentum. The entire Imperial Island had their impressions of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce overturned. They felt that this force had long since broken away from the ordinary business force and had become a serious top force that no one dared to mess with. Various wild speculations about the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce have also begun to spread. Many of the rumors were spread by the invaders' spies, but more came from various voices within the dynasty. How long has it been since the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce sent troops? He had already achieved invincibility and was devastated by his troops. Not only the enemies were frightened by this, but even the ministers and senior officials in the dynasty also had too many daydreams. Everyone knows that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has been training its troops, but no one knows that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has trained its troops like this. This is a bit too much. If it weren't for these intruders, who would they want to deal with? And if the invaders are defeated, will they, who have trained their troops on the battlefield, point their fingers at the dynasty? This is something no one can guarantee. As a result, with the ministers turning a blind eye or even deliberately guiding them, all kinds of weird arguments about the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce spread to the public. Many media began to lead the trend, but after all, this is the world of the dynasty. When they began to promote the benefits of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce and criticize those remarks that were not conducive to the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, they were inexplicably subjected to various similar exploitations by the government, and finally had to give up. It's all about defending the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. However, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce did not respond positively to this. The two sides are not at odds with each other, so this little bit of public opinion is innocuous at all. As long as the agreement signed by the previous mission is not damaged, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce will not do anything detrimental to the dynasty. Chiao, what do you think about this? This is not difficult at all. I have seen similar examples in a volume of documents. If you do this, you can solve the problem perfectly. Mosquito solved a government issue that gave Jiayan a headache with just a few strokes. My daughter is still awesome. Humph. Mosquito's little nose almost turned up to the sky. This is not Jiayan deliberately praising his daughter. But Mosquito's performance during these days really made the black god Jiayan overjoyed. During those days of training in the small town, she transformed her well-read knowledge into practical abilities. Now she is even more comfortable around Jiayan, and many tasks are handed over to her without any problems. This made Jiayan a little shaken. He originally asked Mosquito to dabble a little in government affairs, and with his subtle influence, his daughter would one day return to the right track of cultivation. But now it's easy to use his daughter as the starting point. If one day his daughter says she wants to practice, he will be at a loss. No, for the sake of my daughter, we still have to arrange for her to practice for 2 hours a day, at least. Under the arrangement of the black god Jiayan, Mosquito has gradually become familiar with the government affairs of the entire Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, and many senior people have also come into contact with and got to know this princess of the Geo family. The people in the trading area knew something ominous about the Geo family's affairs, but they knew that they had a sworn relationship with the uncrowned king of the trading area, Mr. Jia Yan. The higher UPS knew better that this Lord Jia Yan should be a member of the Geo family who entered the body of a mosquito through some means or an unexpected encounter. This means that Jia Yan's children may be human. Jia Mosquito must be that real child. Therefore, all the senior management members are respectful towards its positioning, without even a trace of overstepping. Next, you go and tell the Maritime Department that there will be a maritime mission in a few days. Secondly, my real body is almost coming back. If you are interested, follow them to greet me. Hey, is it true? Dad, is my dad coming back? These words, which were full of grammatical errors, gave Jia Yan a headache. He felt weird no matter how many times he heard it. He nodded slightly and said, yes, my real body is getting closer and closer to the island. Although he cannot directly convey too much information to me, I can still receive this little bit of confidence. No one else knew about the intelligence communication between the real body and the clone, and Jia Yan did not mention it to his daughter. Well, I'm going to pick up my dad. Although the person in front of him is also his father, Jia Mosquito also loves his real father very much. After walking for so long to the far gate, it was natural to greet him. She has lived with her father for many years. Her father brought her up in this world for half of her childhood, and she has a deep relationship with her. Jia Rongdu is often envious of this sister. Then go ahead and be careful on the way. Although the intelligence system of the intruders is not that powerful, the dynasty should not take action, but we are not afraid of 10,000, just in case. Okay, I'll pay attention. The next day, a team composed of a small number of people set off. Xiancheng has been changing with each passing day under the promotion of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, and there are almost new changes happening every day. Just from the distance from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's residence to the outside of the city, we can see many newly opened stores, and some buildings have risen from the ground, exceeding the height of the City Lord's Palace and the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's residence. If I were as tall as a native in this world, looking at these buildings would be like looking at skyscrapers, right? Yes, Your Highness Princess. Jia Mosquito was sitting in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's special aircraft, and sitting next to him was a female guard from the small human race. Previously, Wu Pilot had already become the commander of a small human fighting force, commanding the troops to enter the hinterland of the Imperial Dynasty, and now she can be regarded as having outstanding military exploits. Jia Mosquito left one of her sisters by her side. Firstly, she was already familiar with her. Secondly, it was to reassure Wu Pilot and others that there was one of their own beside this princess, so there was no need to worry. There will be no one to speak for them in the center of power in the future. Jia Mosquito is a great intellectual who knows everything from ancient times to the present, so he naturally knows that power needs to be checked and balanced. It's a pity. When I look at them now, it's like looking at buildings that are much bigger than the planet. Sometimes my eyes are not full. After looking at them for a long time, I really want to go back to my hometown. Your Highness, what is your hometown like? The little human female next to me asked curiously. For them, it is good that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is an outsider, but no matter how they listen to the knowledge promotion of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, they still cannot imagine what the world is like outside the inner world. My hometown. In fact, I have two hometowns. One is my father's hometown, Earth, and the other is my mother's hometown, the capital planet of the biochemical empire. I spent my childhood on these two planets. They are both a very beautiful planet. Thinking of the word hometown, Jia Mosquito showed a very rare sweet smile. It seems to recall the innocent memories of childhood. It must be a pretty good place. Her Royal Highness the Princess is smiling like that. Haha, it sounds good, and it is indeed good, but it is a bit too small for big guys like you. My father's home planet is only more than 12,000 kilometers in size. If you go up there, I'm afraid it will kill you with just one kick. Can crush a city. Ah! Can we, our little humans, be able to trample and destroy a city? The little human maid was dumbfounded. They, the little humans, are like rats crossing the street in the outside world, and their status is not much higher than that of rats. And they are so weak and insignificant, how can they destroy a city with 1 foot when they go to the hometown of Her Royal Highness the Princess? This city is so small. But looking at the size of the princess, the maid wisely kept her mouth shut. The most important quality of being a servant is to know how to look at people's faces. If she laughed out loud at such a thing, she would surely end badly. In fact, those sisters with low emotional intelligence have long been sent away from the princess under various pretexts. They are not going to suffer, but it is hopeless to have children close to such high-level people in this life. The fact that she has been able to stay until now is definitely understandable in terms of emotional intelligence. Don't be surprised. Although our city is small, it is very developed. Many of the things developed in your city are borrowed from our city. Of course, it would be quite difficult to expand so much to your city. Difficult things, I don't know how many scientists have lost their minds. Yes, your scientists are really great. The little human woman quickly flattered him at the right time. The greatness of scientists has been promoted in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. In the early days, life here was quite difficult and full of dangers. Scientific exploration missions are not just about doing research in the scientific research base. Many scientists, they all more or less need to go out frequently to do research work, and in these processes, there are many casualties. This is also the reason why the Galactic Chamber of Commerce Alliance has been sparing no effort to promote the greatness of scientists. They paid the price for countless local lives to live a good life. Isn't it too much for you to worship them? It can even be said to be quite cost-effective. Well, those great scientists are worthy of our praise. Mosquito nodded, and then looked at the sky outside Xiancheng. They had cars exclusively for high-level officials, and the guards only saluted but did not stop them. It went smoothly to the outside world. The people accompanying him behind were either riding in similar cars or flying in the sky to keep watch. There is no situation. A wave of people had already spread out and patrolled in front of them like a casting net. Only after receiving the unconditional feedback, the Jiamakiao driver behind will pass. This journey will pass through an enemy-occupied area in a few days. Princess, if we judge that the situation is not enough to handle, we will immediately declare defeat and escort you back. Just as the car passed the last pass of Xiancheng and exited another city area that is now occupied by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, the temporary commander with guards behind him came to convey his ideas. Well, just do as you say. Mosquito nodded obediently. Thank you, Princess, for understanding our work. The guard commander let out a long sigh of relief. You know, he's afraid that this princess will get in trouble, or that she's the kind of unreasonable princess from a big family. Fortunately, this kind of vulgar plot did not happen. Facts have proven that the bigger the family, the higher the requirements for emotional intelligence and sophistication, and their education is generally also very high. Wow! Clatter! Clatter! On a huge sea ship. 2 figures were on the bow of the ship, looking down at the huge sea in the inner world that was far more majestic and countless waves than the waves on Earth. The world here is really refreshing. Jia Yan couldn't help but sigh while bathing in the water splashed by the tide. Another figure was the old god who followed and looked at the scenery of the sea, and chuckled, President Jia Yan, if you are like me and have been wandering on the sea for 20 years, I won't say these words anymore, I don't want to think about those days too much. Jia Yan also laughed when he heard this, expressing that he felt the same way. The old man next to him is not a stranger. But it is far from being familiar. Jia Yanzai's last meeting with him was just a passing encounter, and probably not even a passing encounter. This person just entered the other world through his train system, and then quickly disappeared. Now, decades have passed, and he actually came to his door in a distant continent, asking to return to the Imperial Island together. He is the old domain lord who blended into the other world not long after Jia Yan first established the trade zone channel system, and then disappeared. Unexpectedly, after so many years, the traces of the old domain lord were finally discovered, and they reached the mainland. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3261. Old Senior, nothing is too much. When I look at the sea now, I feel a little emotional. But after looking at it for a long time, or simply living by the sea, I am afraid that I will be sick of it long ago. Your mentality is just like theirs. However, I am curious as to why Senior has been floating in the sea for decades in the first place. After all, you are also a master, so you would not be reduced to crossing the sea anyway. Jia Yan was very curious. He met the senior by chance when he was preparing to return to the Imperial Island after finishing all his affairs on the mainland and obtaining a shocking secret. It should be said that it was not a chance encounter, but the other party came to our door. My race is born with the inability to accurately judge the position. It's okay if someone is carrying it. Once no one is carrying it, I will lose my position immediately. What can I do? That's really miserable. Jia Yan was really startled, and then looked at the old man strangely. Any strong person who suffers from such a problem will easily be in serious danger. When you are running for your life, if you run away and return to the enemy's encirclement, wouldn't you be asking for your own death? But this old man is different. He has been cultivating to where he is today. Thinking of this, Jia Yan couldn't help but feel the aura of the other party. As expected, he was a lower-level domain lord, and not an ordinary lower-level master. He was the kind of master who could kill ordinary lower-level domain lords. So, does the senior have been floating in the sea for decades since he ran away from the island? Yes. Fortunately some fishermen salvaged me and took me on a merchant ship heading to the mainland. Otherwise, I'm not sure why I would still be floating in the sea. Do you think I can like this sea? Jia Yan looked forward along the other side's field of vision, and both sides were speechless for a moment. At the end, he suddenly asked, "Senior, are you telling the truth?" The old and powerful man smiled slightly. "Believe it or not, it all depends on your heart. I am just telling the truth." "That's true." Jia Yan also smiled and nodded. Indeed, whether he believes it or not is up to him. And if the other party has ulterior motives, why should he tell himself honestly? Even if he gains something from his days wandering at sea, what does it matter to him, Jia Yan? Old Senior, when you return to Dynasty Island this time, are you planning to go out, or are you looking for a breakthrough on the spot? The old master's eyes were not surprised at all, and he seemed to have no intention of hiding anything from Jia Yan's questioning and testing. "I'm ready to go out for the time being. This breakthrough is just a small breakthrough. It only adds a little bit of longevity. If the breakthrough fails, I will die in my hometown. Then Junior will arrange seats for the next train for Senior. Then I'm sorry to bother you. Don't worry, I will pay for you along with the cost of the boat trip. What I hate most in my life is owing favors." Jia Yan didn't refuse or say anything, he just nodded. Neither party said it clearly, that is, the outing expenses this time are probably not as simple as ordinary customers. Jia Yan knew that the other party would give him a pretty good reward. Otherwise, not only will it be difficult to save face, but there will also be no chance of cooperation next time. We are about to arrive at the Imperial Sea area. This junior has been out for a long time, and we still don't know what happened to the Imperial dynasty, so we need to make some preparations. Please help yourself. Okay, no need to entertain me. I have to practice some training to avoid dying on the way home. That would be a waste. Senior is cool and unrestrained. Both parties greeted each other again and entered their rooms. This ship is not too big, at least not as huge as the space carrier. But they didn't come here by boat directly from the mainland. After all, the mainland was too far away from the Imperial Island. Instead, under the escort of several major sects and road signs, the two used several teleportation arrays to shuttle to the distance. After visiting an island near the dynasty, Jia Yan wanted to inspect the development of the local Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, so he stopped and found out that the dynasty was being attacked by foreign enemies, so he took a boat to observe the enemy navy along the way and returned slowly. Strategy. The old man said nothing about Jia Yan's arrangements. On this return trip, it was said that the other party came to seek help on the journey together, rather it was to answer Jia Yan's questions. His only purpose was to let Jia Yan send him back to the Milky Way. Otherwise, no matter how crazy he was, he would not be able to find someone to send him back with such a small distance. It could be done with money. As for whether he really went back to make a breakthrough, or if he had some other purpose, that's not known. To Jia Yan, he was just sending him off once more, just like he entered the other world. If the old man didn't tell him, and used his old tricks to hide his identity, he got into the ordinary tourists and got out of the galaxy. For Jia Yan, it would only be a loss of face. Besides, as long as the other party didn't tell, there would be no loss. But thinking about it, the other party also paid respect to him. Moreover, after so many years, the old man also understood that at Jia Yan's age, his growth must be extremely terrifying, and he might no longer be able to hide his identity in front of Jia Yan. That's why he showed up. This old man should have gained something on the mainland, but if I ask him like this, he will definitely not tell. Forced means are even more impossible. I can believe that the opponent's strength may still be there. More than I expected. Returning to the ship's guest room, Jia Yan began to think deeply. This old man is a character that he has thought of from time to time over the years. Although the two parties have not crossed paths before, he has slipped into the other world under Jia Yan's nose after all. In terms of means and abilities, he is a character that Jia Yan has only seen in his life. Now he appears again for the second time, and he comes to Jia Yan quietly on the mainland, which shows that his harvest should be quite big. Unfortunately, Jia Yan can't ask anything from the other party's mouth. There's an enemy ship ahead, turn the rudder. Suddenly, dozens of hours passed, and a sudden call came from the ship. Then the panicked footsteps of sailors were heard. Jia Yan walked out of the guest room calmly. President, several enemy warships appeared over there and were outflanking us. Are you sure it's the enemy? Yes, they discovered our ship, and recognized us from the style of the ship as the ship of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. They are now advancing towards us, and we will be in close combat soon. Well, Zhengzhou has no excuse to attack them. Now is the opportunity. Let them fire 2 shots. Yes. Most of this group of sailors and crew members are sailors with various roles from the mainland. For the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, they only know a branch on another island. The Galaxy Chamber of Commerce over there is just a branch of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. It is just a chamber of commerce that sells some rare items. No one knows what the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is capable of. Although the legendary president has said that he will take action personally, no one thinks that the situation will be improved if the president takes action. The master class is not omnipotent, not to mention that the opponent has dispatched so many warships, and there may be masters on the ships. How about it, President Jia Yan, Do you need me to take action? But the price of my action is not low. After all, every time I take action, I lose my lifespan. Just when Jia Yan strode to the deck with a straight body, the figure of the old strong man quietly appeared beside him. No need, senior, just watch. Then let's find someone who appreciates the great power of President Ichiban. The old strong man nodded slightly. After Jia Yan said hello, he stared at the deck. As expected, the opponent's warship appeared hundreds of millions of kilometers away. The two sides started a chase, and in the end, because the merchant ship's technology was not up to par, the other side chased them closer and closer. Boom! Boom! Finally, the distance between the two sides reached a very close level, and the other side's artillery fire roared fiercely. So brave! Just when these two artillery fires launched by strong men were perfectly grasped in terms of accuracy and timing, making it almost impossible to dodge, the sound of Jia Yan's crashing waves came from the merchant ship here. Whew! Such a strong aura, but it doesn't look like an ordinary cultivator. Who is it? On the other side's battleship, countless people's eyes became solemn, and they were locked on the merchant ship here. And not long after, they saw a little one rising rapidly into the sea breeze. This is such a small life, but so powerful. Looking at the momentum, he should be the top master of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, master level. This person is actually President of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, Jia Yan. Oh no! Just when the sailors on the enemy warships were guessing the identity of the tiny flying creature, an observer had already seen the appearance of the tiny creature from a distance through the telescope equipment. President of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce? Pass the general quickly. This person is difficult to deal with. We must make a decision as soon as possible. The shadow of a famous tree. Among the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, the most mysterious and rumored to be extremely powerful master is none other than the president of the Chamber of Commerce, Jia Yan. Jia Yan did not take action personally many times, but everyone knew that he once had a draw with Kaizu, forcing the dynasty to give up its opposition to the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Much stronger than ordinary masters. Since you know my name, you dare to attack my ship. No wonder I have given you the death penalty. The dull voice was on a distant Chamber of Commerce ship just a moment ago, and the next moment it was above an enemy warship. Please don't be angry, President Jia Yan. It's all just a misunderstanding. Just when Jia Yan's overwhelming momentum burst out, a voice sounded from another battleship. At the same time, the other side's illusory space suddenly expanded, trying to swallow up the battleship here together with Jia Yan in the sky. But before he could reach his illusionary space, Jia Yan in the air already sneered. Late. While everyone was in shock, this person who was just a small mosquito facing the aircraft carrier-like existence actually raised his mosquito legs, opened the space, and slashed out a technique similar to the space slash. What an amazing ability! Is this the combat technique that President Jia Yan has mastered these days? He is indeed an extraordinary genius. On the merchant ship, the old strong man's eyes became sharp. He was extremely dignified. When he blended into the other world before, he had never thought about directly using force to control the main powerhouse in the trading area and work for him. But after thinking about it, he gave up this risky operation and chose to sneak in secretly. At that time, he believed that Jia Yan's growth potential was extremely terrifying. But what he never expected was that after just a few decades, this person's growth still exceeded his expectations, and he grew to this extent in a short period of time. Even if I come to take such an attack, it's hard to say I can take it directly. Sure enough, just as the master over there released the illusion space, Jia Yan had already split the enemy ship into two. The fluctuations cut out from the space are like a sword cutting iron like clay. Even warships made of many high-end treasures in the world cannot withstand its blow. What is even more terrifying is that this kind of lethality, when put on the battlefield, is absolutely unstoppable. A real big killer. What's more, this is just a single-person killer. Pyridine. The illusory space released by the Master was directly cut in half by the slash, and was shattered into pieces. So strong. Invincible. On the battleship next door, the Guru-level being who stood on the bow of the ship like a giant bear turned pale. On the one hand, the illusionary space was broken and his strength was greatly affected. On the other hand, he was also frightened. Walk. Without saying a word, the Master rose directly from the ground, leaving behind the entire crew and subordinates on the ship, and rushed towards the not far away Imperial continent. You want to leave now, are you thinking too much? A joking voice soon came from behind him. The giant bear creature quickly flattered him and said, President Jia Yan, this captain and his subordinates are only responsible for transporting troops. Please forgive us, President, for the sake of not killing too many people in the dynasty I'm waiting for my life. People of the Imperial dynasty, what does our Galaxy Chamber of Commerce have to do with us? Puff. Jia Yan's long legs pierced the Guru-level Master's back. This expert felt that the opponent's small body contained far more sharp power than he imagined. He couldn't understand it at all. Where does such a small life form get such power? He is already standing in the nearby sea and can be said to be the master level of top masters. Why would he be defeated in one blow? Could it be the legendary Supermaster? He is ignorant. No matter how conceited Jia Yan is, he still feels that he is not as good as Supermaster. As early as the Purple Water sect, they had experienced the terror of a Supermaster. Although he had a chance to escape, he thought he was not a Supermaster level opponent. Of course, he is close to the Supermaster level, so it is not impossible to pretend to be a Supermaster in front of ordinary Guru level masters. After all, ants can't tell the difference between humans and elephants. I'll wait for someone from the station to come soon to take revenge for me. The master-level general's face was extremely ugly. After saying these words with difficulty, his whole person turned into a ball of blood mist. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3262. Although it is not as big as tens of thousands of kilometers, it is still 5,000 kilometers in size. When it explodes, it is comparable to the blood mist of the planet. It is really terrifying. Originally, Jia Yan's lethality was not at this level, but his decades of cultivation have already made his combat effectiveness much more than the original cosmic power system. This is also the reason why he walked around the mainland without getting hurt. In fact, he walked around the forest area, and after he came out, the attitude of the entire coastal sect forces towards the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce suddenly changed a lot. Originally, they just invited the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce to do business in the past. They regarded it as an ordinary chamber of commerce, which was good for their influence. However, they almost never looked down upon the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, at least not seriously. A master at the master level is nothing over there. He is at most a master. Those who really play a decisive role are powerful characters at the master level, or simply at the supermaster level. But just after Jia Yan withdrew from the forest, many forces found out through various channels how powerful Jia Yan was after entering the mountain forest area. He even walked around the Zishui sect without any harm. They suddenly realized that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce was also confident. The existence of this unfathomable president alone is definitely not a small role. Moreover, some ancient sects also obtained some information from the classics about the outsiders who would cause a bloody storm, which immediately connected Jia Yan with the outsider protagonists in the classics, and what follows is he was dealing with Jia Yan with some inexplicable emotions. Not only did the trade routes of the entire Galaxy Chamber of Commerce open up because of Jia Yan's arrival, but their status also increased, and no one dared to despise them. At this moment, facing the ordinary guru level in the sea area, Jia Yan really just kills them casually. Died. It's so strong that it makes my scalp numb. Go quickly. Under the sea, the entire invading fleet collapsed. As the only and highest-ranking master in this fleet, the scene of this master's death at the hands of Jia Yan simply became an unpredictable nightmare in everyone's mind. The commander-in-chief is now among the best in the sea area. Even a being like the founder, who is not as high as a super master, can sit on a huge island for 10,000 years. It can be seen that even if an ordinary master does not have that unshakable status, he definitely has a good status. The master-level master who was casually killed by Jia Yan had a status in this fleet just like the Dingai Divine Needle, but this Dingai Divine Needle was easily killed by Jia Yan. It is definitely a lifelong nightmare for all sailors. Looking at the warships collapsing and escaping below, no one even dared to rescue the previously sunk warships. Jia Yan looked at them for a moment, and had no intention of chasing such an ordinary character, and returned to the merchant ship without looking back. Your Excellency, President, you have a good idea. It's just a mere strength. I'm afraid I won't be able to use it in front of seniors. You don't have to be so humble. I'm afraid I won't be able to cope with the President's attack that can cut off a 1,000,000-kilometer warship. But the President, please be careful. This sea area seems to be controlled by the enemy. If they immediately send strong men to snipe at us, I'm afraid we will still have to fight hard. Well, what the senior said is true. We should leave here as soon as possible. Jia Yan didn't think that just by casually killing a master-level enemy, he would be able to defeat all the enemy's masters by himself. If the war was so easy to fight, he wouldn't go to such great lengths to form an alliance or anything like that. Instead, he would just turn on the unparalleled mode and push through alone. He stopped the merchant ship escort masters who were already flying in the air and chasing the enemy from air to sea. Then he set sail and quickly left towards another sea area that had not yet entered the enemy's territory according to the intelligence. After a while, several masters from the sea area who were not too slow to react appeared in the sky. Should we pursue or not? Their ship is not too far away. Forget it, they are already close to the area controlled by the imperial dynasty. There are many military methods against strong people there. If there are a few experts to assist them, even if we chase them, we may not be able to get away. This Jia Yan has returned from the mainland. This matter is very difficult. We have to find ways to deal with difficult situations. We are waiting for a great situation, and we can't give up because of his appearance. That's true. Several masters were furious with hatred, but to no avail. They began to restrain their subordinates who were floating in the sea. Fortunately, most of these soldiers were masters. Many of them had the ability to fly, and at most they were ferocious giants in the sea. Some of Udao's troops were gone, but most of the remaining troops were still intact. As expected, there are experts over there. If we don't leave in time, we may have been besieged. Your Excellency, President, you command appropriately, otherwise I will suffer the consequences. I'm afraid Senior will have his own way to escape even if he encounters such a situation. Nowhere, the old man no longer has so much strength, he is just dragging his half-dead body around. Jia Yan and the old man were at the stern of the merchant ship, observing the sky behind them. Although they could no longer see clearly, they could still feel the presence of many masters there. It can't be said that every one of them is a huge threat, but if the number reaches a certain level, Jia Yan will also have a headache. Moreover, certain military weapons specifically aimed at the strong are also things that he is afraid of, so it is still time to leave, otherwise it was destined to be an unprepared encounter. Even if Ji Shi wins, it will be a miserable victory. Moreover, there is a veteran strongman beside him who is unknown to the enemy. Jia Yan doesn't expect his help, and don't make a sneak attack at the critical moment. So it was a good thing for him that this war was not caused. President, there are Imperial Navy warships appearing ahead. Do we want to raise the flag? Fight it out, and send someone to the other side's warship to inform me of my identity? Yes. Suddenly, someone quickly went to a patrolling Imperial warship that appeared in the distant sea. Not long after, I saw strong men coming to the battleship over there. He is a master at the pinnacle of Taoism, close to the subdivision level, and can be considered a rare strong man. Of course, at the master level, they are like ants. In front of Jia Yan, who could kill even a master level person, he was even more like a mote of dust. Although the opponent was more than 3,000 kilometers in size, he did not dare to breathe in front of Jia Yan. Wei Yi, the captain of the third ship of the Royal Navy of the Great Imperial Dynasty, sends his regards to the senior. Well, I want to pass through your sea area immediately. I don't know how to handle the procedures. It's very simple. This ship just sends a speedboat to escort the senior president's merchant ship forward. Then let's do it. I wonder how the seniors passed through the enemy-controlled sea area ahead. Is their control over there already so weak? The admiral asked hesitantly. The sea area under his jurisdiction is too close to the enemy coalition sea area across the sea. There have been constant frictions during these days, and there have been several battles. Both sides suffered casualties, so he knows very well that if the two sides fight, in such a condition, it was impossible for the merchant ship Jia Yan and the others were traveling on to sail openly from the other side's waters. Unless this master has some conspiracy with the other party. What he fears most is this situation. If the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has a good relationship with the enemy, the entire dynasty will definitely be doomed. After all, the combat power of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce army has been transmitted from the front line to the side during this period. With such a terrifying combat power of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, and then forming an alliance with an enemy coalition that the dynasty already has a hard time dealing with, what can the dynasty do to stop them? Jia Yan couldn't help but laugh. You do have Kakiao exquisite heart, so it doesn't hurt to tell you. Just now, my president's boat was indeed blocked there. After a fierce battle, the opponent dropped a master level the general's corpse and the remains of many soldiers escaped. If the general wants to do something, he can do so now. Is what the senior president said the truth? There is no doubt that she is the mother. Okay then, I will retire. This naval admiral also seemed to be a practical man. He said goodbye abruptly and flew out of the merchant ship. He looked in a hurry and looked like he was about to prepare his troops. From top to bottom in the dynasty, there are still many capable people. It's a pity that the ignorant are also prevalent. Otherwise, we would never be where we are today. The old strong man sighed beside Jia Yan. He had been by Jia Yan's side for a long time, but the arriving Imperial Navy general seemed to be completely invisible to him and completely ignored him. This shows that the old strong man's strength has reached a point where the general's consciousness cannot be penetrated, and he can kill or behead him in a single thought. How could our predecessors in the mainland have such accurate information on the Imperial Islands? Jia Yan said with a smile. There's nothing I can do. Your Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is here. I rely on you to get in and out of the galaxy. If I don't bribe more people to get some information here, how can I rest assured? Jia Yan clicked his tongue and marveled. Senior calls himself a road idiot, but his operations in the mainland are not like those of a road idiot. Can't I have my own powerful subordinates? Could it be that you, Jia Yan, are the only ones who can create the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce? A bad old man like me can't create many subordinates. No, the seniors are much better than the juniors who have little knowledge. It's Meng Lang. Please forgive me. Okay, it's uncomfortable to talk too much about hypocrisy. Let's go back quickly. If it delays my life, I will have to blow myself up to trick you even if I die. When Jia Yan heard this, his hair stood up all over his body, and he couldn't help but look at the half-joking old man. The other person said it as a joke, but there was a biting coldness deep in his eyes. It seemed that at that moment, it was really possible to do this. They are all going to die anyway, so it doesn't matter if there are so many, just grab the strongest master around and rush to hell together, no matter if you are friendly or hostile. This kind of madman who is about to die is the most terrifying. Even among humans, many elderly people will have mental problems, worry about death and do many strange things. They are still humans, and their mobility is limited. As for the strong, many strong have reached the end of their lives, but there are many ways to increase their strength to the peak of their lives. What's more, if they self-destruct, their power may be far greater than usual. Senior is joking. Junior is not the kind of person who delays time. Why don't you just urge me? Jia Yan left angrily, as if he was afraid of walking too slowly. Only the old strong man behind him, who seemed to have seen through Jia Yan's thoughts, was left laughing heartily. This guy. The boss can't be offended. You're dying, you're the biggest. Jia Yan would rather go against some stronger masters than provoke such old guys. After all, they are really likely to fight you casually. So and so. After entering the sea area controlled by the Imperial Dynasty and a few days passed, they entered a place with a teleportation array. After all, it would take at least half a month to travel from the coast to the vast Imperial land to the boundary of Xiancheng, where the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is located. Not only does Jia Yan not want to waste time, but the old strong man is eager to return home. It seems that he has obtained some opportunities in the mainland. If Jia Yan wastes time and his slim chance of survival disappears, he may really find him to die with him. After Jia Yanpin found out the taste, he also thought of a way. That is to find a few friends from the mainland. They usually go to Xiancheng to purchase goods, and they do so through some means of teleportation. After Jia Yan went to where they were to plead with them, he was worried that there was no way to make the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce owe more. Naturally, they would not refuse the request from the president of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, and immediately offered up the short-distance teleportation array they had arranged. It is said that the ancient teleportation array has been lost long ago, but it was a cross-sea teleportation array. In fact, in the mainland area, short-distance teleportation arrays have always existed. Therefore, on this Dynasty Island, there are also teleportation arrays jointly arranged by several major forces in the mainland. This also facilitates the purchase of goods by major forces in the mainland for decades. Thank you very much. No, please invite the president to come to our place as a guest next time. It's a deal. Who? For the teleportation array, Jia Yan and others are already familiar with it. Even the old strong man had taken many teleportation arrays while traveling between sea areas. A similar sense of drowsiness came over me, but I recovered quickly. There is a new world ahead. Sure enough, this teleportation array is much weaker than the inter-island teleportation array we have been on. That's definitely the case, but it's still enough for us to travel tens of billions of kilometers, close enough to Xiancheng. Jia Yan chatted and laughed with the old man and walked out of the station where the teleportation array was located. He was sent off by the experts stationed here and walked out of this small village area. The Galaxy Chamber of Commerce in Xiancheng will not allow such a teleportation array that can project power anytime and anywhere to be set up too close to Xiancheng. In fact, the area they are currently traveling from is still hundreds of millions of kilometers away from Xiancheng, but it is already quite close. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3263. Senior, I know you are in a hurry, but don't be anxious yet. Xiancheng is so close, Senior, You don't think you can't get there now, right? Hurry, I'm about to die. The old strong man's eyes widened, no one knew whether he was telling the truth or a lie. Jia Yan was helpless and nodded with a wry smile. He even ignored some senior members of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce who came to greet them, and took the old strong man to fly towards Xiancheng where the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce was located. I originally thought that if the old man wanted something from someone, I would definitely take care of him, but now I realized that he was really careless. This is literally a time bomb. It will explode if touched. Anyway, they think they are going to die, so they still play tricks on you and threaten you with explosions at every turn. Do you dare to fight with them? I don't dare at all. I wish I could throw him back to the Milky Way immediately, out of sight and out of mind. Dad, you're back. Who is this? Before entering the boundary of Xiancheng, at the relatively dangerous junction with the Imperial area, there was a girl's figure coming towards me. It was Jia Makiao who came from afar to greet him. For Jia Yan and others, crossing the ocean is not a big problem, but for a powerful second generation like Jia Makiao, reaching the edge of Suanken's influence is an unprecedented adventure. To be honest, I have been using Yeguo reading to catch up on books recently. I can switch sources and read aloud with many sounds. It can be used on both Android and Apple. Different strengths and different statuses will naturally have different boundaries. Nonsense, how could you come here? Jia Yan glanced at his daughter, but there was no hint of annoyance in his eyes, instead there was a hint of endearment. This is an old friend that my father brought back from the mainland. This time, this senior will also leave the world with us. You should be prepared to go to the Milky Way with my father in a few days. Okay. Jia Makiao's eyes lit up. You know, although she doesn't particularly hate the other world, in comparison, the Milky Way is indeed a place that no young girl can resist. Not only is it safer there, but there are no giant creatures everywhere. More importantly, the Milky Way is a prosperous place compared to the barren dynasty islands in the inner world, and many of the books Jia Makiao wants can be found. Is this the daughter of Your Excellency the President? She is indeed a beautiful girl with outstanding talent. I've met seniors. Jia Makiao was quite good at getting things done. When she saw Jia Yan, she was very polite to the old man around her. She immediately adjusted her position and saluted the old man respectfully. No need to be polite, this is a souvenir, please don't dislike it. The old man casually took out something from his body, and Jia Yan was slightly startled when he saw it. It was a strange object that looked like a book, but the meaning of the laws of the universe on it was quite obvious. Of course, for existences like them, this rule is not too shocking, but it is still a lot of gains. I didn't expect that this top expert would be willing to give up such a valuable treasure. Jia Makiao was stunned for a moment. It didn't matter whether his hand was stretched out or not. Since Senior gave it to you, you just accept it? Jia Yan spoke next to him, and his daughter accepted the treasure with some surprise. This thing is also good for young people with good talents. President Jia Yan, don't swallow the things I gave to your children. How is that possible? Jia Yan smiled. In fact, I cursed in my heart, if the old guy didn't say this, he would borrow this thing from the child later and play with it. As for whether he still refuses to return it, it depends on Jia Yan's mood. Maybe someone couldn't help it and absorbed this thing into his own nutrients. Dad, is the senior the strong man you said disappeared on the island last time? He is indeed extraordinary. Entering the giant carriage facility arranged by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, Jia Makiao couldn't help but come to discuss the matter of the senior. You stinky kid, did you buy you off with just a treasure? But this is indeed the one who disappeared on our Galaxy Chamber of Commerce train before. You have to be careful, this old man is never who you think he is. Kind. I understand, don't worry. Jia Makiao felt quite uncomfortable with the idea that his father thought he was a troublemaker. This giant carriage looks ordinary to locals, but there is something else going on inside. After all, Jiayan and other galactic creatures are very powerful, but they are only so small. A carriage that is thousands of kilometers long and wide is enough for them to build quite complex and luxurious living facilities inside. In this way, the group of people started to set off again. In the days that followed, Jiayan discovered that the older, powerful man often had contact with his daughter, intentionally or unintentionally, and gave her advice on many cultivation issues. No matter what, the other party's age is there, and he is much better than Jiayan in terms of knowledge and various experience issues. So after Jiayan thought about it for a while, he decided to turn a deaf ear to the matter. The relationship between the two parties was pretty good, and it was in the honeymoon period. He didn't believe that this master would kill his daughter in front of him. Moreover, the closer he gets to Xiancheng, the more confident Jiayan becomes. In a place like this, he is confident that he can use his talent in subspace to wear down a supermaster. No matter how powerful you are, you can't fight against people who move and attack in subspace, right? This is Jiayan's biggest reliance. In Xiancheng. After finishing the work at hand, Black God Jiayan suddenly raised his head and looked into the distance. He could already feel the mysterious fluctuations coming from his true body. I'm finally back. I can be a hands-off shopkeeper and leave everything to my clone. It's really. Black God Jiayan was speechless at Jiayan's real body acting like this. Of course, this is completely nonsense. The first time both parties come into contact, they will pour their memories and various insights into each other's minds and bodies. To put it bluntly, both parties are the same person. The service of the clone here will return to the mind of the true body bit by bit in the future. So it's not necessary at all. He got up and left. Is Lord Jiayan back? Outside the door is Huaxiang's workshop. She is now Jiayan's almost 24-hour secretary. My clone has returned. Black God Jiayan frowned and corrected her slip of the tongue. But it was obvious that the other party's expression would not change. No matter how strong the clone is, it is still a clone. Of course, no one will show this on the surface. The veteran strong team headed by Huaxiang firmly believed in this. Jiayan also hated this about them. I always feel that the Black God clone is not the real Jiayan. There is nothing the Black God clone can do about this. We can't punish them all, right? This galaxy chamber of commerce has really changed tremendously. Outside Xiancheng, a large number of experts gathered, and some were well-known people from inside and outside Xiancheng. They were all waiting outside the city for President Jiayan's return from the expedition. The old strong man had already praised him again and again before entering Xian City. He knew about the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce and Xiancheng. When they first started to mingle in this area, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce was simply a small force. Now time flies, only a few decades have passed, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has changed, and Xiancheng has also changed. President. I have met this senior. Many masters came to greet Jiayan. By the way, Jiayan introduced the old man around him and immediately bowed to him respectfully. The old man was not polite at all and enjoyed himself with peace of mind. Regardless of his strength or age, he can afford this courtesy. Huaxiang, you have worked hard to take care of many things these days. Here, Lord Black God is the leader, and my role is only a part. Huaxiang was really not humble. After Jiayan approached Xiancheng, he looked at the Black God Jiayan fiercely in mid-air. All the encounters between the two parties during this period were all integrated and entered into their respective hearts. Deep. He naturally knew that Huaxiang was indeed inferior to the Black God clone in terms of work efficiency and quantity. But it did help a lot, otherwise she wouldn't be watching her lose tens of thousands of pounds now. Not to mention a body that is more than 30 kilometers long, tens of thousands of pounds is nothing. You must know that it is quite difficult to change the body shape of a strong person. This shows how troubled this beautiful goddess has been recently. Senior, these are my current team, which makes you laugh. Well. Jia Yan was about to chat with the senior about his Galaxy Chamber of Commerce team, but when he saw the other person staring straight at the distant sky, he couldn't help but look up as well. Then Jia Yan's expression turned strange. It turned out that in mid-air, one of the 6 masters who once had a relationship with Jia Yan and others in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, also came to the sky above Xiancheng at this time. The other party's expression was solemn, and he was locked on the old strong man standing next to Jia Yan. Long time no see, President Jia Yan. He was not too rude, nor did he forget that this place was Jia Yan's territory. Long time no see, Your Excellency. After Jia Yan responded, the master landed on the ground and continued to lock eyes with the old expert with a frosty gaze. He said calmly, I didn't expect that the star pirate Haitian, who was once famous throughout the Milky Way galaxy, is not dead yet. /U003C/P/U003E. Boy, do you know me? The old strong man's face remained calm, and his reaction could only be described as dull. Yes, I know your aura even if it turned into ashes. When you destroyed my home planet, I was always thinking about this day. Seeing this strong man talking to himself, Jia Yan was a little surprised. It turns out that this old man is actually a star thief. You must know that during the period when Jia Yan entered the central star field of the Milky Way, the so-called star thief had already become a historical term. Many experts say they remember the days when star thieves were most rampant. But in the entire modern history of the Milky Way, everyone can remember the most terrifying and hysterical days for the star thief, which was the moment before their demise. While those star thieves were going crazy, there was a top star thieves who truly stood above all the star thieves. His existence could even alert the major forces in the central galaxy at that time. His name is Haitian. It has invaded countless worlds, and a large number of creatures have been destroyed by the light of its sword. The reputation of the entire star thief force has become so great because of it, and even the structure of the galaxy will eventually change because of it. Just when the big forces are eyeing money and discovering that the income from being a star thief far exceeds that of normal operations, they are ready to extend their hands to these new businesses. The sky and the sky, which have become the symbol of the star thieves, are like the stars that have risen to the highest peak, but suddenly disappeared at an unknown point in time when they were blooming with the most vigorous brilliance. With his disappearance, the shocking world of star thieves also came to its craziest end. All major forces launched a campaign against the star thieves, driving them from the bright side into the dark, and then hunting them down until they were completely wiped out. In less than 1,000 years, the powerful star thieves completely disappeared, and the interstellar society entered an era dominated by forces. Nowadays. But someone told Jia Yan in front of him that the person next to him was none other than the world-famous star thief King Hai Tian. Haha, I destroyed so many planets back then. Junior, was your hometown destroyed by me? Then you are not dead, but you have good luck. You have grown to be as powerful as you are today. It is really the opportunity I gave you, haha. Haha. The old strong man let out a roaring laugh. The Shuo who was flying on the ground opposite had his face turned blue, his eyes narrowed, and he was about to take action. Two of you, if you have any grudges, why don't we talk about it sometime later? I'm going to make peace with you. Can you not resolve your matters now? Jia Yan stood between the two of them, his eyes darkening. The momentum of the 3 top masters caused the surrounding world to surge, and the sound like the wind and the remaining clouds blew several giant trees thousands of kilometers away from each other. For a moment, the dangerous look in my eyes became calm. President Jia Yan, I give you this face, but this person has a blood feud with me. If he leaves your Galaxy Chamber of Commerce or the trading area, I will kill him as soon as possible. Please don't blame me again then. Junior, if you can do it, come here. Hai Tian laughed ferociously. After his identity was revealed, his expression seemed to have returned to the bohemian days of his youth. Jia Makiao, who was next to Jia Yan, didn't seem to recognize the old man he had been with day and night, and couldn't help but hide behind his father's long legs. The three high momentums collided, and the sound caused by the sound caused everyone around them to retreat continuously, and everyone was frightened. The momentum of the three master-level masters is extraordinary. These are not just master-level masters. These three are all the top masters of the post-region domain masters in our galaxy. None of them are what you call ordinary masters. It would be a big mistake to take them lightly. /U003C/P/U003E. It's a pity. It seems that those two are friends of the president. I didn't expect them to have a personal grudge. Everyone was horrified, panicked, and even sighed. The three men restrained their momentum, and Jia Yan stood between them. Accompanied by the two of them, they entered Xian City. It was as if the tense situation just now didn't exist at all. Only Na Shawo would show a slightly different meaning when his gaze inadvertently turns to the old star thief. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3264. Do you love me? If you don't love me, please eat me. If you love me, please let me eat. Jia Yan was speechless for a long time as he watched the love movie that his daughter was enjoying. Is this what you young people watch now? It's not a storyline in the Milky Way. I'll definitely accept it. Dad, aren't you an antique? Jia Yan, who returned to Xiancheng, originally wanted to have more contact with his daughter to resolve the slight feeling of unfamiliarity between them after not seeing each other for a long time. But he was speechless to discover that after so many years, young people who grew up in the outside world actually have a rather unique and heavy-tasting view of film and television. For example, watching love movies made by celebrities from all over the world is exciting. Unfortunately, adults are not easy to educate. Call them distorted. They can slap a racist label on you and make you speechless. If you dare to say these expedient measures, it won't work. It will spread, especially if an existence of Fijians level dares to say it, it will cause serious problems. It seems that it is urgent to send my daughter back to the Silver Source Department to rest for a while. Jia Yan made up his mind. Otherwise, if he enters the other world and raises his daughter to death, Satsuma Kono will have to fight for his own life. As for the war within the dynasty, Jia Yan saw clearly that it was temporarily unable to fight a second decisive battle. All parties involved are a little tired, and they are also a little unsure about the participation of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce in the war. They must go through a period of investigation and special strategic adjustments, otherwise who would dare to fight an uncertain war? It's not like children playing house. So I decided to return to the Milky Way for a while. Communication technology inside and outside is also being established. It won't take long to officially have cross-world communication methods. That way communication will be more efficient and faster. Don't worry. There is a problem with the intelligence. Black God Jia Yan was speechless and choked. So, are you ready to be the hands-off shopkeeper again? Jia Yan sighed, our affairs are only in the other world. There are also many tasks in the Milky Way that need to be handled personally. Secondly, you have also seen that the dispute between Haitian and Shawo, do you think it will not affect trade? District. The Black God clone was speechless for a moment, and said after a while, that's all, go ahead, I'm just continuing my previous work. Good work. The real body was rarely polite to the clone. The next day, Jia Yan, who thought he would return to the headquarters of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce and stay at the headquarters for a while, actually set out again to personally transport the passengers and cargo of the next long-awaited train and deal with issues related to the galaxy. However, the local people did not criticize and question this matter too much. The main reason is not that Jia Yan's position is noble, but also that the normal exchanges between the station and the outside world have been stagnant for a long time because of the dynasty war. After all, the Avatar's energy and physical fitness are completely different, and it is impossible to handle war affairs and take care of the driver's job at the same time. You two, please don't make it difficult for me. Can you at least prevent serious conflicts from happening in my territory? Since it is the request of the president, I will naturally give it to you. That's good. Jia Yan led the two experts into the special seats inside the bus. This time, he specially added 2 extra compartments for them. He was afraid that the 2 of them would fight in the subspace. It doesn't matter if they fight life or death. The problem is that Jia Yan and a bus of passengers don't want to be buried with them. This time, due to the extremely large volume of freight, Jia Yan's personal transportation, and the 2 unique passengers on the train, there were many people coming to see him off. Thank you for your hard work, President Jia Yan. Secondly, it would be best if the matter between those 2 people does not affect our trading zone. Huasiang's somewhat solemn eyes were fixed on the 2 specially separated carriages in front. Don't worry, if this matter can be solved, I will naturally do that. What I'm afraid of is that we can't get rid of this matter even if we want to. President, are you saying that someone might take advantage of this opportunity to set a trap for us? Otherwise, why do you think I would leave the other world on purpose at such a critical moment? This, sir, please be more careful. Saying goodbye to the worried Huasiang and other senior management left behind, and nodding heavily to his clone, Jia Yan moved his giant mosquito body and entered the power room inside the train. After a while, the power in the power chamber was output, and the train began to move slowly. Sure enough, he is worthy of being a genius of this generation. He is the only one who can think of such a wonderful idea and is willing to put down his face and do it. The old strong man was alone in the train compartment, his eyes filled with a little bit of sigh and sigh. Even after seeing a similar scene once, he couldn't hide his recognition and admiration for Jia Yan. At the same time, there was still strong envy in his eyes. He is said to be the top genius and the person who created the history of star thieves more than 10,000 years ago, but his family knows about his family affairs, and there is still a gap between him and such a genius. It seems that there is only a thin line between him, but the thin line is the difference between heaven and earth. This matter cannot be forced, and there is nothing for him to develop from envy to hatred. Unpredictably, such changes have occurred. Is that boy a member of that race? Could it be? The old strong man's extremely old face showed traces of death, which was more serious than what outsiders saw. It was obvious that his condition was worse than imagined. If Jia Yan and others were here, they would find that the old man's true state was probably even more exaggerated than the death is imminent revealed on the surface. The appearance may pass away at any time and at any time. I really want to live. Things have progressed to this extent. I see a great opportunity right in front of me. I don't want to waste it in vain. If I fail, I will die in peace. The old man is still alive. He also understood the thoughts of many people who were chased to death by him. For him, the more people he killed, the more he would gain insights in his later years. There is no such thing as a nightmare or not, and there is not even a trace of regret. It's just that the emotions of various characters are intertwined in his heart, making him always in a daze, and he can see many faces blooming and passing in front of his eyes, whether they are crying, shouting, etc. A clear picture emerged again when he was feeling groggy. That was the face of a young man. The young man had a tragic experience. He was seriously injured due to the persecution of his family when he was young. He dragged his disabled body to survive on an apocalyptic planet. Even with 2 younger siblings. They are like the lowest maggots, never giving up and always struggling. The 3 brothers and sisters fell in love with each other in the apocalyptic life, and their relationship was improving rapidly. They also gradually grew up and will soon grow up and live a normal life. But just when such a beautiful day was about to come, changes came. The famous star pirate group Haitian Star Thief, led by its leader Haitian, attacked the planet. In the end, the brothers and sisters died in the chaos of the planet's major forces, and the young man became even more disabled. His struggling appearance was witnessed by a tall creature. He stood up and fell again and again he stood up and fell down again, but the direction he headed was not the place of escape, but the pool of blood where the two siblings fell to the ground. Child, do you want to die or live? Death. I want to die, let me die. If I don't die, I will definitely kill all of you star thieves. Faced with the overwhelming pressure like that of a mountain, this young man showed no fear and roared crazily. The behemoth's eyes became sharp, and a murderous aura reverberated in the air. The atmosphere at the scene became murderous. And the young man didn't know the extent of the strength of the behemoth above his head, he only knew that it was crazy. The hysteria of losing a loved one made him fearless. The young man didn't know where the monster above his head had gone. He didn't think that the monster had let him go, leaving only the memory of hatred deep in his memory. From then on, he risked his life to join the forces opposing the star thieves. After countless hardships of blood and fire, his strength increased rapidly. But just when he was about to truly achieve greatness, the great era of star thieves had already come to an end. He tossed and turned for a long time before finally finding out that the strong man who faced him back then was the strongest in Haitian, and also the strongest man in Haitian. Leader, Haitian. Why not kill him then? Haitian himself was also puzzled as to why he didn't kill that young man in one go. Why? Eventually he developed such a powerful enemy. Isn't this just trapping yourself? Why? He thought about it, but he really didn't understand himself. Soon he was overcome by the hallucination of imminent death, and he fell into a dead silence of endless confusion of thoughts. At the front of the train, in the sparse tranquility, I looked out the window at the unchanging subspace dead silence, and various thoughts also emerged. Thousands of years have passed, and even the memory of top experts has long lost its original impression due to the torture of time. He could not remember the first events, only his endless hatred for the Haitian star pirates. To put it bluntly, this is already part of the meaning of his life. Now that the greatest meaning of his entire life is about to be achieved, he has been waiting for that moment every moment, and he can't even wait. When he saw Haitian before, he was so excited that he couldn't help himself. He seemed motionless, but in fact he was trembling all over. It had been unknown how long it had been. Every time he recalled those days, he couldn't help but feel his blood boiling. He wished he could go back to those days. With his current strength, he would be able to kill that master and protect his younger siblings. Soon, very soon, my brothers and sisters will be able to avenge you. Just wait. A bloody battle between these two men is inevitable. As a strong man, Jia Yan's undisguised murderous intention towards the masters was naturally clear to him. I don't have any special feelings for them. At most, I feel a little sad that the galaxy will inevitably lose one of its top masters, but this is not a kind of romance of the strong. Perhaps one day, the descendants of the masters I have defeated, or the enemies who have not killed them all, will perform a similar scene to me. When he thought about this, he always felt that it was not impossible for such a situation to happen. No matter what, I will not lose. He stood firm. The road to the Milky Way is longer this time. Welcome Master Jia Yan to return, and two other adults. Back in the trade area, the communication station fixed in the 5th and 6th levels of space had already sent a message, notifying the top management of the trade area to come and greet them. Well, how is work in the trade zone lately? Thanks to your lord, the trade area has been booming recently and there are not too many problems. Okay then, let's arrange for these two to leave our trade area and go from the no man's land to the north. Huh? No man's land. Several senior executives who came to greet him had suspicious expressions on their faces. The person who communicated with them was the permanent staff on the train, and they could not explain the origin and purpose of the two masters. These senior officials thought that the two were guests, but they did not expect that Jia Yan would send them away as soon as they arrived. This is too disrespectful. You know, as mentioned in the communication, these two are also masters of the lower level of Domain Lord. Yes, just do as I say. Okay, let's arrange the manpower right now. Well, we will arrange another battleship and I will send it to two friends. As commanded. Jia Yan has been virtually dominant in the trade zone for decades. Not only has his status not declined over the past decades, but because a steady stream of top players have come to offend him, they have all been expelled or even killed by Jia Yan, leaving Jia Yan with a single hand. His dominance and reputation reached a level that other masters could not match. If it weren't for the experts who came to set off the situation, people near the trade area would not have thought that there was a difference in strength among the powerful people of the lower level of the territory lord. So now, the ordinary domain lord level beings who were originally showing off in front of Jia Yan now consider themselves subordinates or juniors. It is almost impossible for anyone to resist the order issued by Jia Yan. Not long after all the passengers on the train left, the two masters who had been standing proudly not far from the giant Mosquito suddenly opened their eyes. The battleship they were on arrived. Both of you, please board your respective battleships, but, I still want to say something. It is better to resolve enemies than to make enemies. If you two are willing to change your mind, I, Jia Yan, can be the middleman to ensure your peace. /U003C/P/U003E. Before Jia Yan could finish his words, he the Shawo of the two looked sharply in his eyes. Jia Yan, are you trying to arouse my hostility? President Jia Yan, good intentions cannot save a person who is willing to die. I accept your kindness. Once I kill this little guy, I will come to express my gratitude in person. The old strong man's words made Jia Yan hesitate to speak. This old strong man is probably terminally ill. From Jia Yan's point of view, it is difficult for him to win even if he has countless years of experience. Even if he wins, it will definitely be the end of his lifespan and his death on the spot. Okay, take care, you two. I'd like to lend you some good words. Jia Yan watched the two of them enter the battleship that he personally selected for them, and then he jumped into a battleship. To be honest, I have been using Yeguo reading to catch up on books recently. I can switch sources and read aloud with many sounds. It can be used on both Android and Apple.